What is good, everybody, and welcome to Carnage Cup number 4. We have 2 full days jam-packed with Apex action to bring you all, and I am joined by Tenric today. We have a lot to talk about because it's a very exciting time to have a tournament like this, so stacked, so many fantastic teams. Tenric, what are you looking out for today other than a great deal of fantastic Apex gameplay? Oh, we're having a little bit of difficulties here with my co-caster, but I'm sure he has a lot to talk about as much as I do. Yeah, lots of exciting stuff to get to today. We have tons of fantastic teams that you guys all definitely know and love. Tenric, tell me some of your favorites and what you're looking out for from those teams.
Hi, everybody. So sorry about that. My NVIDIA broadcast decided to just invade my vMix. So happy to be here, though. It really feels like we're coming to a head with all of these NA stories. You know, we've barreled through this patch. At this point, everybody's really used to everything. The pool is evolving as time goes on. We've had so many different events come together, but still a lot of teams that have yet to show their faces. It really feels like this tournament is one that's going to set a new bar, a precedent for how the rest of the Apex meta is going to go onward from here. Save for a couple teams, C9, CLG, TSM, W, and AP. I think those are like some of the only teams that aren't here. We have a really huge NA crowd coming to step up to the plate, most of which have yet to really take a W in the recent months.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have the Carnage Cup 3 champs with us today, C9, though it is a very C9. But let's talk about the teams that we do have, because it is crazy the amount of great talent that we get to watch today. We've got TL in here. We've got Optic. We got a brand new esports arena. There are so many teams and so many storylines that we can talk about. And there's also a big stack of teams that are starting to make a name for themselves as well. Obviously, a lot of players that have been in the scene but are getting switched up, mixed up with a whole different lobby dynamic here. Again, a lot of the big names, obviously Fuera, who has been one of the absolute game changers of this Apex Legends meta, and it continues to change. Every single team, 100 Thieves being one of the early innovators with that new castle that we saw at Champs, and who is now being used by a lot more teams in very creative and very unique ways. Love to see Torrent in here as well. Have to shout him out. Rambo and the boys are so sick, and I feel like I don't see him enough, so glad to have them in the mix. Just so many great talents that we get to watch today, and also some returning talents, some old faces that have left us for a little bit, that have left us maybe for some less awesome games. We got Snipe down in the mix as well. You'll notice team Ass in number 2 ASS. That is Alberlele, Slurp, and none other than Snipe down. So we have a lot of heavy hitters today, y'all.
There's definitely a couple places that my mind immediately drifts to. Of course, Tripods, Nick Merckx' team, who just onboarded Gent to the table. Guild's recent move to NRG is also something I'm really excited for, along with Team Liquid's adaptation with whoever they bring to the plate. Mello and I have different ideas of who that is. I think it's going to be Sykes, personally, but we'll find out when it hops into the lobby. But speaking of which, let's talk about how this scoring format works. We have 12 games over the course of the next 2 days. 6 will be played today, 6 will be played tomorrow, starting out with 3 on World's Edge, follow that up with 3 on Storm Point. Point system works the same as ALGS. Placement points, 12 for first, 9 for second, 7 for third, etc., and 1 point per kill. There is no match point system. It is completely cumulative, so at the end of the 12 games over this weekend, we will have one team crowned champion based off the most points received. So, Mello, no team is necessarily out today. It's great to get a head start.
Yeah, and we've seen huge comebacks on 2-day tournaments like this, so you are never all the way down and out. It is really exciting to see who's going to step up to the plate first, and I think it's going to be some of those teams that are a little bit more adaptable in different lobbies. Again, we don't just have like the stack of the best 20, 30 teams in NA, right? There's a mix of some teams that are in some of the other smaller tournaments that are, you know, here and there getting mixed up with their teams as well. So there's a lot to be said about the teams that are going to get ahead early, but also the teams that can bounce back and recover and are able to, you know, take the game or take time off of the game, after day one, look at their gameplay, look at what the other teams are doing, be able to adapt and be able to achieve victory when they are a little bit lower in that leaderboard. So it is definitely possible. And all of these teams have the potential to have huge pop-off games. And we're not looking at match point here, so you always have an opportunity to pop off, to have a huge game. Maybe one game you just need to start looking for those kills. Maybe day 2 is the day where you decide, you know what? what we were doing yesterday is not working. Let's go find some teams, take them out, get some extra KP, or maybe adapt, slow down a little bit, maybe change up those compositions. And with the fact that we have, again, 2 maps in the mix in a very mixed up meta, we're going to see a lot of changes to people's game styles throughout the next 2 days.
Yeah, one of the arguably biggest pools we've seen for champions in competitive Apex history is really hitting the mainstream. So many different champions that we get to see enter the ring. But the big 5 at this point are going to be Horizon, Seer, Valkyrie, Newcastle, and, who is it? Horizon, Newcastle, Seer, Valkyrie, and who am I missing, Mello?
I mean,
what's my fifth?
Really,
that's
that
kind of the floor, isn't it?
Kind of the variable, because we have seen a lot of teams start to mix in really interesting stuff. We've seen the CLGs, and I think Esports Arena as well has been experimenting a little bit with things as crazy as crypto. Plenty of teams that are still feeling really comfortable on that Gibby and that Caustic as well. We see Optic as one of those teams that refuses to move with the meta. They want to set the record straight with how good these characters still are. So yeah, that 5th spot really is contested, but we're obviously going to see a lot of that Seer. Watson is in the mix, absolutely, but we're definitely going to see the 4 that you mentioned, I think, are going to be very common. We're already seeing a lot of Seer. The fighting power of that Seer is just so fantastic, paired with that Horizon, who just is able to frag out as well as use that ultimate to zone out and also engage. So a double-edged sword there that is a great tool in a lot of teams' back pockets. But the Valkyrie is still very common, and I think we're still going to see a lot in Stormpoint, because that map is honestly incredibly punishing for those teams that have to be able to make those long, winding rotations. Even though the map does provide a decent amount of cover, those rotations are not easy, especially for those southern POI teams. So finding creative spots to hold and finding creative spots to transition through in the mid game is going to be critical. And I think Valkyrie still does a fantastic job of facilitating that sort of activity. But like we've said already, there's just a lot of variables here at play and a lot of new teams that are trying to figure out new strategies. And I don't think any one character fits the mold of every single team. This is something that we've also discussed a little bit, is that every team can make very different characters look very, very good with their respective play styles.
Yeah, it's a big question mark that kind of enters the tournament like this. What bridges the gap between experimentation and success? Because we've seen Fuse, we've seen Ashe, we've seen Maggie, we've even seen Vantage used a couple times in recent events during this patch, but nothing has really evolved to a point where you say, oh wow, this is a big change. This will really shake things up. Everything is kind of trying to do the same job. Ashe is meant for that mobility and that destruction. Fuse, of course, those grenades, very, very important. They all have their own set of utility, but nothing that has really broken things as much as Valkyrie did when she was released. And so the real question, I think, is when these teams, they come up with these new things that our eyes are immediately going to dart to, if we see that Fuse, if we see that Ashe somewhere in that lobby, of course, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be asking about that. But the question really comes, are they trying something new, or are they trying something that works?
We will see very soon here as we wait for game 1 to get going here shortly. Definitely a lot of question marks that will soon be answered, and we get 2 days to dig for those clues and to dig for those snippets of what these teams might be thinking of as we quickly, hopefully very quickly, approach year 3 of the ALGS. Everyone's itching for that announcement. I know everyone that I know in my circle is just dying to find out when we get that going, but we have fantastic tournaments like these to keep the Apex Legends scene alive. So again, thank you, Knights, and also have to shout out our sponsors for helping to make this possible. eBay, thank you for being our presenting sponsor of the Carnage Cup. You can get up to 50% off on all of your favorite gaming gear from your favorite brands like Razer, HyperX, Microsoft, whatever you might need. You can find it at the best price using eBay. So be sure to visit pks.gg/eBay. Again, that is pks.gg/eBay. And amongst all of the changes that we're seeing, Tenric, it's not just about the characters. It's not just about the teams. A lot of the map has changed, not only in terms of the ring changes, which we obviously have seen already punishing and already making it very difficult for the lives of some of those edge teams, but also the weapon changes. We have Skull Piercer back in the rotation for things like the Wingman. If anyone was looking up those clips on Twitter yesterday, Crust had a really nasty double headshot for 99 that absolutely blew up a team fight. So a lot of changes to track, and it's actually really difficult to pinpoint one singular thing that's going to create a standout performance. It's really a combination of all of these changes at once.
I think my favorite standout weapon-wise has to be how the 30-30 has changed. It's always sort of been you know, just under the surface of a meta weapon. It's always been in the hands of these pro players, and when they wield them, they do such insane damage. But with that double loader, it is absolutely ridiculous how quickly you can keep on cycling through it. Also, with the slower rise on Valkyrie's ultimate at this point, you can get more connection with those 30-30 shots during those ultimates as well. So it not only works as early game at this point, it also works for those late game distance plays. But like you said, so many different changes to these weapons, so many different changes to how these teams interact with every single aspect of the game, and we'll see how it all culminates as we head to World's Edge for game number 1 of 12.
The wait is over. Everyone joining us, I hope you're as excited as we are here at our respective desks behind the mic. Again, this is one of the biggest tournaments that we get to watch for the clash of such fantastic teams. We are back on our home base. We are back on the classic World's Edge. Every time it's a little different. This is the beauty of this battle royale and of the way that these teams navigate the map. So obviously early on, we're looking out for those contests, if any are present, because one very quick way to fall in the leaderboard is to lose on drop. And Tenrik, looks like we've already got a fight here. Unsurprisingly, we've got Furia already taking down Designful on the side of G2. That's a very early drop here, and Furia is definitely on the front foot of this engagement.
Furia, known at this point for being knee-deep in things. His Watson always also going on the Bloodhound as opposed to the Seer, but we're seeing firefights on top of tower here. His Watson trying to do-si-do around these knockdown shields. Gonna grab an elimination along the way, but it's Fury that falls first.
That is brutal. The bodies are getting shot down. This might be one of the contest classics, and G2 is here to play, baby. They win out on the first one. They get their entire claim here to this POI, which they will continue to loot, and they're playing out of here with 3 kills on Chaotic.
Absolutely wild beginning to things. Furia, one of the favorites for the tournament, falling in 20th in the very first game. I think we jinxed it enough by talking about it, so maybe we just shouldn't talk about any of these other teams who have all found their respective drop spots. For the most part, we'll be looking at some pot shots for the time being before this first ring comes in, which again is much sooner than it used to be.
And we are looking hard northwest, so teams like TL, who are chilling at trials, are going to have 1, 2, 3 gold items. That's right. They're going to be sitting with a good amount of loot to poke out teams from that height. So all of these southeastern teams are looking at Optic or looking at Luminosity. Even Sentinels, they're going to have a long walk to make here. And G2 also has, of course, KP that they can kind of play into their strategy, right? Maybe now they can adjust their aggression. They know they no longer have to deal with the likes of Furia, one team that is known for that aggression, for wanting to take every single fight. And maybe now it's their opportunity to barrel down on those defensive squads. And with the lack of as many defensive characters, here we see G-Force running exactly 0 of those. It is a lot more feasible to just push down a fight and be aggressive, be up in people's faces, and force them into an uncomfortable position. And that's sometimes what it takes to clearly rotate.
This circle coming in on already a very crowded spot in World's Edge. It's interesting to see how loot is going to be redistributed once all of these team members kind of make their way through. Here's G-Force hopping on down inside circle. It's barely going to make it into this corner, but they're already locked in a fight inside this building.
And they have landed on a team. They have 2 great shields. Oh, excuse me, 2 purple shields and 1 gray shield to work with here on the side of G-Force. They're holding down the bottom of the building, coexisting for now. No one really quite on the engage. And that Seer ultimate does make it very difficult for that top team to really want to get too active here. So they're going to hold out for now. They're going to get a claim to this spot. But this might not last forever, and it likely won't. If you take a look at where this ring is pulling, eventually something's going to have to break here. Might be sooner than later. Bronzy here leading his team, and Capra, which we aren't seeing on Renegades as we had initially predicted, is actually holding it down with ESA. So very interesting to see how this is going to, or excuse me, not on ESA, sorry, on Bronzy's team. Can't wait to see if this fight breaks out, but for right now, Esports Arena holds the top.
Yeah, 100 Thieves on this other side as well, getting Vayne in on the action today. But it's ESA and G-Force clashing inside this building first. That's probably going to be highlight of this first bit of Skyhook. But it's a waiting game. ESA still has this higher floor, and there's no reason for G-Force to move at the moment. Circle's not demanding it. Fights outside aren't demanding it. 100 Thieves have a little more space to call their own, though. They have a little more mobility to get outside and go on that wide end. Here's Los Demonios, another FA pub stomper that we didn't really get a chance to talk about yet, but Tech and Hack have been really hashing it out. Meanwhile, NRG on the receiving end of that fire. Sweet Nathan and Guild, newly acquired Guild, trying to fire back. Both of these teams in kind of unoptimized positions, but as always, you gotta make the most of it. Gonna try and go for this distance play. Nathan rocking that wingman, not gonna hit any shots just yet, but it's a lot of boxing out, just trying to ward away your opponent's Guild. A little bit of a rush down, but it's just to take a little more space. Here comes the exhibit drop down in the middle, and it's a fight for this grounding as Nathan does spot an opponent on the lower area, but can't find the way to chase him down. There's a little bit of a tracking on the Valkyrie, finds a solid amount of damage on the Flesh, but he's taking some shots from another direction and has to duck out before finding the finisher.
Yeah, they're slowing down a little bit here, but that was a fantastic engage to break this out, and now they have taken up all of this space on the south side of Lava Fissure and quickly choking out this team. Now that they control this middle section, they can just wait a little bit. They can bide their time. Los Demonios, the team putting on the pressure, narrowly gets away Mr. Hakulo right now on the Valk. And we're actually seeing this composition a lot. This is something that we talked about a lot because it is very versatile. You have the Valkyrie, obviously, to facilitate your rotation, and the biting power of both the Horizon and the Seer is so good, so strong right now. Poking at a distance for now. They don't have to get too aggressive quite yet. Both teams have an okay spot to play out of, since this most likely keeps pulling up to the north side. But right now, Energy is controlling all of the space, and you see the pings there. Los Demonios, he doesn't want to deal with this for too much longer. They're going to Valk ult right on out of there. Seeing the ring pop there. They're gone, man. They do not have anything to do with this fight right now, especially with where they have to get to. A lot of travel to be done.
Definitely for the best to burn away nice and early there. It's clear NRG has control of that area, and they're not going to let go of it until they absolutely have to. Definitely heard that, though, so now that NRG knows that the space is a little bit less occupied, they'll definitely be able to have some more freedom around it, potentially grab some more stuff along the way. Los Demonios, they have to get acclimated to their new environment very, very quickly because, again, just re-entered this circle that a lot of teams were already inside and a lot more getting to know about a lot earlier than LDM was, but now it's NRG that has to be on the back foot and re-enter this. Probably be one of the last teams to do so, actually.
And LDM has rotated behind them. They actually just want to keep this fight going. They want to keep up the aggression. They want to deny NRG all of this opportunity to loot up as well as use that crafter. So they're continuing to look here, not finding tons of damage, but now they're kind of on the front foot and have the priority on that northern rotation. But they don't have that Valkyrie ultimate on deck, whereas NRG certainly does. So they might be able to do the exact same thing here. They can't get too comfortable. NRG is not afraid to fight, and especially with Guild on their side. Absolutely cracked controller player for those of you who aren't already well acquainted with this player. Sitting on the Valkyrie right now. NRG definitely has the capabilities of doing a lot of damage, but it is yet to be seen whether that fight will break out once again. Meanwhile, this part of World's Edge is getting very busy here up on the eastern side of Skyhook. I think we see 4 squads just in this conglomerate of little buildings. Actually, make that 5.
It's
100 Thieves, Renegades. I mean, this is just ridiculous right now.
Everybody's in the area at this point. 100 Thieves actually have some pressure on them now with RNGs actually spreading themselves perhaps a little thin. Pow outside of his element for the moment, maybe getting back to his squad. And yeah, now 100 Thieves are occupied, and everybody knows it thanks to that exhibit. Meanwhile, there's another squad upstairs. G2 engaging in another fight near the bottom of their own circle, while Skyhook is going to be the conclusion of this story. Every other team outside of it trying to get to that point in the first place, but G2 now up to 6. That's another squad wipe for them. Now they're just going to pick up the pieces for it. I'm not sure, though. I think that was who, actually, that they just took care of, dropping down to 19, so no points for them. Instead, every single point actually has gone the way of G2 so far.
Yeah, G2 is hunting right now, and this is the time to hunt. Ring 2 is about to start closing, so while it does do increased damage and all of these rings are closing a little bit quicker, accelerating the game state, This does mean that now that G2 has fully cleared Furia out of the equation, they are the ones that can be aggressive, and they are claiming so many kills. Right now, Chaotic sitting on all 6 of those and 1,000 damage, and we are just getting the zone to close. I am terrified of what this team might do as they approach even more squads. If anyone is late to this rotate, they will most certainly be punished by this squad, and once again, we see the same legend composition that I think everyone seems to be gravitating to right now, or at least a large proportion of the field. Chaotic sitting on that horizon. We've got Designful on the Seer, and Zane holding it down with that Valkyrie. Does have the ultimate on deck, so they might choose to utilize it now, or maybe they found another victim that they can take down for some additional KP.
The big problem, though, is that with that Skyhook final, or not final, penultimate, maybe circle, we see a lot of the teams having to enter, and as many teams as there are on that frontline building, there are a lot of vantage points for every single one. So the second you enter in that open space, you're going to have so many different players just staring you down, perhaps needing to get an extra bat or two along the way. Here's Optic we haven't gotten to take a look at in a while, but they have the drop on the following circle, once again, even further down into the western area of Skyhook, and as the rest of the teams are preoccupied with everyone else migrating from the eastern and southeastern ends, Optic is actually going to get this care package and set up shop in a different area, dodging some free fire now that they've actually let themselves known thanks to that care package getting monitored, but this building is essentially all theirs.
Yeah, and Optic recognizes that there's actually a lot of space here on the southern side of Skyhook, a little bit surprisingly in my opinion. And with that Caustic, they were able to hold that choke out a little bit longer, but they need not necessarily have to commit to that. When they could just walk in, pick up a care package weapon, and actually just continue making their rotate. No one has even looked at this squad. They have such a great system down to be able to make this rotate. Meanwhile, RNG did not have the best system there for getting out of a sticky situation. Space Station Gaming now also looking at all of these buildings, and there's a lot of pressure being laid down on all these squads that have committed to this chunk. But really, those buildings are really fantastic to play. If it continues to pull hard north, it could literally end right outside of that doorway if it doesn't end up finishing on God of Height. So this sort of gamble, this sort of, I guess, tug and pull of this area, it really does just come down to these teams understanding that this might be one of the better spots to play out of should they survive to Ring 5 and to Ring 6.
There's a big duality that comes from taking this building all by yourself. On one hand, you have that control. You know you can move from floor to floor, and there's nobody to really contest you. But on the other end, if another team is exiting a building and you have these clean vantages like Space Station does, you can't exhume that same amount of pressure that a lot of other clumps of teams can when you have to exit, with that Valk burn coming from RNG, dropping us down to our final 17, as Skyhook is indeed the moves for just about everybody, but everybody's just about already planted themselves down. Now it just comes down to farming damage and who has to end up exiting first and how exactly you're going to do that. One of the first Watsons we're watching on the board as well, boasted by Frex along with that Newcastle from dropped, one of the newer entrances to the metagame, that combination, but a powerful one as any. The pylon behind that castle wall, definitely one of my favorite combinations to watch in a game like this.
Space Station also has plenty of weapons to work with to keep loading up those shields. They have a wingman, they have a 33rd repeater, and a charge rifle, so they can continue to lay down damage and slowly but surely creep up those shields into the purple and hopefully the red status. We saw Team Liquid that's already holding that God height up top. Should it pull there, they're going to be in a very good position to play out of there. But here is where the fights really start to break out. Ring 3 is starting to close, and we see right now Wingman Season choosing to make their rotate sooner than later because it will certainly be punished. And it's already happening here. Retzi drops out of the sky, and the Valkyrie dropping first means that everyone else will follow suit very rapidly. Sentinels now gets to shoot fish in a barrel. They have been gifted some shots here. Managed to knock down Retzi, and now they're looking to potentially pick up the pieces, maybe interrupt this res that could be going down. I'm very curious to know if Wingman Season survives this. It looks like they may have just snuck into a building just in time. 17 squads still up right now, but plenty of real estate is quickly being taken up. There we go. Wingman Season is unfortunately eliminated off of a single rotate, and this is what we had talked about. Valkyrie is not a golden ticket into zone. Once things get tight, once people recognize that they can just hold angles and hold teams out, you will be punished. You will not get that rotate for free, and that's exactly what we saw there.
Yeah, so much circumventing, and while Sentinels had a good position for specifically that fight against Retzi in the remainder of Wingman season, they didn't have a great position for the rest of it. Nathan engaging with 3, immediately going to toss that black hole in, but take a lot of damage for it, and immediately after, they have to back right out again. Liquid and Oxygen in that same building, but here's Who bubbling up with that Jibby Caustic combo, a more uncommon thing that we see, but still effective as ever. Wave trying to wave through these waters, but that window along with that thermite has kept him boxed in. He's already on crumbs. Energy attempting to rotate through, but takes some damage along the way throughout these windows. Nathan saying, get out of the way. I need to take my pot shots in. That Nox gas thrown down to once again give Who a little bit of space, but they have to dodge so much along the way, and now comes the actual skirmish inside this door. Another Arc Stars forcing Great Sword to engage on no shields at all on raw flesh. Meanwhile, Tripods, again, recently acquiring Gent, along with Deeds and Nick Mercs, a squad to definitely watch out for in the future to see exactly how they do, trying to contest this low ground. To Nick Mercs' teammates are going down. He's on purple shields and bar nothing in health, and everybody's rotating through this outside door. Nick Mercs has 2 knockdown shields to play with, but not much more than that. He's got the low ground, and now he has got absolutely nothing. It's Tripods eliminated in 15.
NRG buys their time there, recognizing that they don't have to engage right away. They have to wait for that fight to actually just play out, and they can clean up not 1 team, but 2. They take out Tripods, and they also finish off Who. Now they get 6 boxes to loot on their way to this end game. Round 4 is closing, but they have cleared so much of this side of the map. You have to remember, though, the likes of G2 are still making their way in, and that's exactly the squad they might be worrying about here. Optic Gaming currently in shambles with just 1 member left up to sneak into this rotation and rat it out for some additional placement points, maybe steal KP here and there, but that is brutal look for Optic Gaming as this ring closes. We now start to see all of the squads that have taken up these buildings, that have taken up residence in these stronger positions in the map, and SSG right now is absolutely posted up with the Watson Newcastle comp. No one is going to be walking up to their building. TL getting aggressive.
Liquid having to drop in, 100 Thieves getting a limb for it. That building that was occupied by everybody under the sun is now out of commission. It's to the northern end of Skyhook we go, where SSG is sitting pretty, and Team Liquid, they do have winner's choice of their boxes. Fun rocking that Fuse as well. Again, another bit of a unique pick along with that Maggie coming out from Nocturnal. Again, not the most common pick, but definitely something that can work well when handled correctly. And man, does Team Liquid know how to handle this stuff correctly. But man, NRG, what a position they placed themselves in. That invasion was impeccable, and watching Guild adapt so quickly to a new environment and a new squad, absolutely beautiful to see. Final 8 as we enter the smallest circle of all, getting to rounds 5 and 6. This is the toughest transition yet. Esports Arena, they've managed to get this high ground, and they will get a down on top of it, trying to rack up these points, but no squad wipes just yet.
Yeah, so many teams getting absolutely cleared right now. TL, you love to see the straight up W key transition that you see there with the Fuse and the Maggie. Esports Arena now getting sieged on their building. There are plenty of teams that want the spot to play out of. That is one of the last high points that you can play as the ring pulls over towards that market spot. Esports Arena under quite a bit of duress here, but I think that might be the optic solo, and I think they recognize that. Phony Hit says go, and go they shall. Esports Arena swings up to this lone player, and that's actually G2, the last member that was trying to rat things out for that squad, and TL will follow suit here shortly. Absolutely wiped. NRG is clearing out World's Edge right now.
You can't hold down these corners when the buildings provide so much better cover. These makeshift walls, they have so many gaps, so many weaknesses, and teams can't account for them all. There's so many things you have to pay attention to, and somebody is going to end up falling behind. But Los Demonios still has prospered so far, now in the top 6, but Hakulo has yet to find a kill. Both of his teammates have fallen, and fighting against the world, Los Demonios falls.
That was a big trade, but it doesn't matter. ESA, too swift, too quick with the punches, are able to take that squad down and quickly recover Klein, and now they have plenty of resources to reset. Klein, another one of those players that is getting creative with this meta right now, actually choosing to run the crypto. Nice angles being held down from Fury. Fury doing so much work to protect his squad mates. Actually actually gets him down to flesh. Has to back up though. Now Klein has to do some of the heavy lifting. NRG is eliminated, and Esports Arena also has the gold shield to work with here, so they will once again pick up their down team member, this time with extra shields to boot. They have a great spot to play out of right now, but there are 3 squads that are stacked on top of each other right now, looking down on them, trying to prevent them from forcing their way in. We see Space Station absolutely posted up with those Watson walls, but we also see Alberlely's team, excuse me. Wow, I'm already way too excited about this game. Also posted up down below in this building. A lot of heavy hitters in this final ring.
How exciting would it be to say that Team Ass has won? I mean, how badly could any Apex caster want to say something like that? Oxygen, again, kind of waiting in the wings this entire game so far. They've been occupying the same buildings that a lot of these prevalent teams have so far, but they've kind of just been scrounging on the leftovers, and that's gotten them this far, but can it carry them that much further? I want to point out, Fury, impeccable way to clean out both the wall and the choke so that NRG couldn't get in at all. That was a beautiful way to hold it all down, but somebody has to rotate, and somebody has to do it soon. OXG and SSG both in really solid positions, but there are still so many gaps you have to manage along the way, and OXG, they are looking a little worse for wear because of it, having to constantly bat back up. They have to exit soon as this circle is beginning to close. Scissors taking some pot shots. Scissors, one of those players that has really been indecisive throughout this whole time on who they exactly want to play, but settling on the crypto right now. That EMP defensively could be huge, but doesn't have it at the moment. It got shot down. So OXG, they kind of just have to play for territory, and on top of that exhibit, they'll be able to do it a little bit better, even though it's not exactly theirs. Holding down this building continuously as ESA is now the one that has to rotate through, and they're taking a lot of hits from that low ground, including some grenades launched by Scissors. Bubble dropped down right below them by ESA, but what more can they do about it? Now OXG taking even more hits, more shots, Pylon down. And OXG still continuing to try to hold this spot as the rest of the squads attempt to hold this low ground.
And the fight has fully broken out now. This is most likely the final engagement. Unfortunately, Alberlely's squad does get eliminated on the way out. Space Station Gaming finally drops down, maybe a second too early as Drop gets dropped. Frex might be following very soon after, but it's actually their 3rd member that falls first. Frex now holding down a corner, trying to shield up, but will not be able to do it. And from the outside of the building comes Esports Arena to take down game number 1.
What an immediate top 3 run, and that run through the entire top, 12 was absolutely incredible by Esports Arena. Their ability to continue playing that territory wherever they ended up going and say, this is my place now, you cannot go anywhere. That is quintessential Apex and a great way to kick off the event.
And I love to shout out a crypto every time I see it, but we saw 2 there. We saw 2 cryptos near the top 3, top 4 there, which is insane. Klein might have unlocked something that we hadn't actually predicted before. We spoke about it a little bit, but did great work there. And towards those end games that are such a mess, I mean, really, it was just an all-out brawl there with Watson gens coming down left and right, being instantly broken, grenades. I mean, you name it. Every sort of ordnance was in play there, including, I think, a Gibby ult. Near the end there, definitely saw a Gibby bubble. So lots of action, lots of different tools that were employed, and ultimately it was Esports Arena that comes out on top after wiping out a large part of that southwestern side of the squads.
Absolute chaos in that game 1, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that final circle diving onto Skyhook. There were so many different places that these teams could hop over to. High ground, low ground, middle ground, so many different floors. You name it, people went there. It was super fun to watch, but these rotations will not favor every team the same every single game. That will do it for game 1 on World's Edge. We'll hop over to game 2 after this short break.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Welcome back, everybody. We are back for game 2 of the Carnage Cup number 4. And of course, we've got the leaderboard. It's cooked up and ready for y'all. So let's see how far exactly Esports Arena got ahead of the game here. 23 points on game number 1. Team Liquid followed suit pretty closely with 14, and Oxygen in third with 13. But Esports Arena found a lot of those really important kills to set themselves apart very early on in this game number 1.
Yeah, Liquid, NRG, and G2 KP was absolutely massive in their different parts of the game, but Esports Arena's pivots were second to none on World's Edge that game. They were just so solid at taking whatever needed to be taken at the exact right time. The question is it replicable? Because in a game like Apex, on a map like World's Edge, it is impossible to do the same thing twice. Esports Arena, how much of a chameleon can they be when it comes to the following 2 games here and the following 3 games on World's Edge tomorrow?
And they did this coming out of, I guess, arguably a lot of these squads, obviously like TL that were up in the north side, they had the priority on some of those power spots and they took full advantage of it, right? They were up on that God height so early and they were farming up kills and they were running a very aggressive composition. They were running that fuse with the Maggie. So both of those characters are just absolutely fantastic at taking fights, griefing teams, even from a distance. You don't even have to hard commit to anything when you can just spam fuse grenades. And it almost looked like that in an NRG fight too. I wonder if TL was getting involved from afar, but that spam is really strong. And of course, if you're sitting up there with a longbow, it doesn't hurt either. So a lot of damage being done, but Esports Arena, like you said, in the end, their rotations were really clean. They punished teams right when they needed to. And that end game fight, straight up attrition with those crypto ultimates. We had the Gibby bubble. There was just a lot going on. So they're able to sneak it out, play those rocks. The angulature of that cover is not an easy one to play, but they made it happen and they come out with a dub.
So wild to see that the only 2 cryptos that were picked in this entire lobby were the 2 top teams at the end of the lobby. That's just really fun to me. But I think going into game 2, what I need to see from some of these teams that are at the halfway mark is a little bit of an ability to go with the flow a little bit more often. We saw teams like Sendhild was doing a great job of monitoring the outside and kind of playing this guard dog babysitter to what they needed to do. However, when it came to actually going inside this circle, once they were done with all the scraps and taking care of their own stuff that they had to deal with, rather than aggressing, they couldn't really play as reactively. And I think a lot of teams were kind of faltering in those moments. But we are seeing so much action come from all of these players. So many of these teams just making decisions. And in a meta like this, I feel like that's exactly what you need to do.
Absolutely. And Oxygen there as well. I have to give them a lot of credit because they had a lot of walking to do and a lot of adapting to do. Playing out of a POI like Geyser can be so rough and so punishing in so many different ways, but they are able to make that far walk all the way over, pick up so many points. So shout out to Oxygen for making that happen. And they also made that happen with the crypto. So, I mean, that's just great stuff. The crypto is coming into its own right now, I think, in a meta where a lot of people have sort of fallen into that standard comp. You can almost call it the standard comp, right? You're seeing Seer, Valkyrie, Horizon. You're seeing that a lot, but that wasn't the type of squad that was winning out in the end games. And realistically, it wasn't the squad that was winning out on a lot of those mid game fights either. It was a lot of just clustering in different buildings that ended up being somewhat sloppy team fights that ended up just naded out in absolute shambles, even for the team that won. So we'll have to see if any adjustment is made to prevent the messiness of those situations from prevailing in any one of these teams' game plans as we move into game number 2.
Yeah, there really was no middle ground between the long-distance chasers and the very close-quarters messy fights. Like you said, there was no middle ground where there was a lot of, just damage farming or high ground, fighting. And I want to see more of those moments. I want to see more of these long-term standoffs where both teams are so confident in themselves, but also so respectful of the other side that you just have these little duels that go on so long. That's what makes so many parts of this map so enticing. Furia finding their drop a little less contested this time around, so hopefully they won't find themselves at the bottom of the pack here, because although it's game 1, they already have so much ground to cover considering that they are one of the favorites here.
And I do believe G2 is up in their faces. Here we see an enemy, and that was going to be a quick one-click for Panders. 101 damage in one burst, and is going to try and peek, but actually almost gets beat out himself. Did 145 damage to Whites, but isn't able to clutch it up. Now the rest of Furia is starting to walk in, but the answer might be there from G2. His Watson drops Zane and Furia. 2 members up. Zara Tricky living with a pixel as his Watson picks up Chaotic as well. Now a 2 versus 1 situation against G2, and notably absent from the end game of last lobby was Furia. So if they're able to win this out, we might have a very different situation on the edge of World's Edge here. Let's see if they can clutch it out.
Both teams handling these angles pretty dang well. Building like this takes a lot of patience to be able to peek these walls properly, especially when you don't have that sear tack available. Fury is going to be able to take this ceiling, but what more can they grab? Where is the rest of G2? They are on the hunt. But first, they're going to finish off Zane to at least grab that 1 KP. G2 still rotating on this low ground. Here's one entrance, and there goes Chaotic, and G2 is the one to fall this time, and Furia with a little bit of celebration to dictate it.
Oh, 100%. And we're going to be seeing this all throughout today, by the way. I believe their drop spots are also contested on Storm Point, so expect to see a lot of this contest. But that does mean almost from the rip, every other team should expect 19 teams and should start figuring out which team on the edge they have to worry about. In this case, it will be Furia. Furia, notorious for being absolute killers, absolute just beasts on the lobby. We know that his Watson ranked #1 for a long time in that ranked environment is just absolutely insane with any gun you put in their hands. So they will be the ones that will be dominating near the edge. Expect to see them taking a lot of fights. They're one of the pioneers of that Horizon Seer that has looked so good on a lot of different squads. So kind of the proprietors of that tactic will now be on the map and very potentially ruining a lot of games for these teams.
Back over to ESA, already on the move towards this second Skyhook circle in a row. Definitely catastrophic for a couple teams that have to make that move again. Poor Optic, poor Luminosity, poor Sentinels. They are all going to have make that same trek yet again. 100 Thieves, one of the teams that are already in the right spot for now, but trying to just contest this properly as they're taking a couple bits of fire as they are in a pretty open spot. But yeah, ESA, one of those teams that we've been talking about for a while just because, you know, Fury and Phony have been trialing a lot of different players for the past, couple months at this point, and they haven't really settled on anything, but Klein has really been leveling up recently.
Yeah, Clayton is a fantastic leader for those teams as well, so I'm not surprised to see them doing so fantastic. And of course, you come with the caliber of Esports Arena, who did give us the current green wall on the map, so can't go wrong there if you're putting your bets on an ESA team. Right now, 100 Thieves is putting their bets on a very different spot on the map. We saw Team Liquid holding here earlier. There we see Optic Gaming, just speaking about former ESA, actually picking a fight very deep in zone. But this is a very different fight now with the ring changes. This is hurting all that much more. So OG with 2 purples is going to try and fight it out here against the likes of Who. Things have slowed down for just a moment here. They do have some heals. I'm not sure if this was contested. I believe they came from Big Mod, so they will be slightly better kitted, I believe, than this team, who actually has a man down as well, and they're very unlikely to be able to recover them, and indeed does get fully thirsted out. So Who maybe now thinking about how they're going to rat this out or potentially pick up that banner to get their 3-stack back up. And yeah, we'll see if they can do it. But Tripod's another team that's already setting up pretty heavy, and with a very heavy team here. Nick Merckx on the caustic of all things. Not exactly where I expected to see him.
Yeah, what a fun way to start off game number 2, just constantly having different ideas. Again, Gent back on this squad here, just picking that ubiquitous Valkyrie. We'll see a lot of fillers and trialers just pick that up for the sake of having that all-rounder ready for it, and that's completely justified. Valkyrie can do just about anything that any player needs to do for any role on that team, other than sustain a little longer, like Optic has been doing, and of course, like Nick Merckx will attempt to do. On this Caustic, it's all about where are they going to be able to set up shop and how long are they going to be able to do so. They don't necessarily know that this circle is Skyhook-based again, but they're already in a solid spot regardless of it.
Yeah, I do see that there's a beacon there on a previous gas can, so they most likely do know where they have to go. They're already pinging that building you see there. That was literally one of the building sets that was close to that final ring in game number 1. So they're already moving because they know they have to post up, not for a good time, but for a very long time. And they have some of the tools to do that with that caustic, very critical there. But we'll see if they can make it out of the mid game with that composition. Meanwhile, Wingman Season finally found their way into a cleaner rotate than they did in game number 1. Resi still with that Valkyrie ultimate in hand, and Zednim with that bolt in hand is absolutely going to blow up Pow Pow. Drop all the way down, not just on the ground, but also with some awful angles being looked at from every other part of Skyhook. So Renegade's going to have to try and figure out how they might manage this recovery. I Am Madness getting absolutely blown up from this other angle as well. Now have to use Pow Pow's cover, but won't be able to for long. He is dropped as well. Now the last member of Renegade's going to try and pick up a thirst on the way out. Zednim is punished for his hubris, and right now Renegades continues to live, but increasingly there are teams looking up at this angle, and they might be able to get this recovery.
It was a risk, but it was initiative, and taking that means you may pay the price for it. Zednim indeed doing so. Torrent, one of these squads that we haven't really gotten to talk about at all recently, just because they didn't really appear in the previous game for long, but they have a solid spot to call their own. They have a little bit of ground to work with, and they are pretty kitted out, but they are face-to-face with Furia. They are not face-to-face with Panthers, though, as he's going to fall early on. Zera attempting to get this rotation going. Meanwhile, is Watson getting the drop on one more member. A little do-si-do, but Zera is on scraps. Has to do this out, and actually will get the double down. It's Furia that falls first, though. It's still Torrent that remains up. Aiden and RKN survive.
And Torrent, another team notably absent from the end game of game number 1, now taking out Furia. The potential reapers of this map are out of this game, which means that now Torrent might be able to pick up a lot of that space that is left behind, that void of aggression that Furia will no longer be exerting on the rest of these teams. Meanwhile, NRG possibly looking to be the ones to exert some pressure of their own. Nathan repositioning here and does have the Rampage in hand. Is powered up as well. Great damage there means that they are going to start forcing down this fight. There we see the ultimate, the Singularity going down onto Slurpee G, snipe down, and Abralele. They are getting absolutely smoked by these grenades right now. That bubble will not save them for far too long, at least not as long as they need here. Snipe down has the backup, and literally 20 HP on every member. Make that 20 HP on the last member. Slurpee G now might have to try and make a very brave escape here, or is going to take a final stand here. Actually does knock Sweet, but will be dropped soon after. And just like that, ASS is eliminated by NRG.
It was a good bombardment to cover fire, but that black hole provided enough time for NRG to dance around it and still find those kills. Now they have so much space to control, and on the edge, as a matter of fact, their rotation, they have so many options pathing-wise, and those extra KP on the board are going to do them well, considering they're already in the top 5 as of now.
Yeah, they're looking really solid. They did pick up a solid amount of points in game number 1, so they're going to continue to steamroll. Maybe look for a dub now. They've cleared one additional squad near this edge, and there's only 14 squads left. So they're gonna have to be able to rotate here at some point. They're already pinging that choke, which is not usually the most favorable spot, especially if you're lacking something like a caustic to hold it down in case you get sandwiched or pushed from behind. So they're just gonna wait out for now. They're gonna see who's coming in late, who they can possibly punish from some additional KP. Torrent might be one of those squads who took out Furia over on the other side of the map, on the southern side coming up. They will have to rotate through staging and possibly through landslide, which NRG is notoriously good at fighting. So with Furia out now, there's plenty of teams that can pick up that aggression and be able to exert that pressure that's going to get them a lot of additional points and very free rotates into this ring.
Optic, one of the teams who were once again unlucky for this circle in the exact same spot from their southeast corner, making a getaway towards this round 2 circle, but they still have such a long way to go. So many meds they need to farm out. It's just a question of can they make it back at this point, which is never a place you really want to be in, but they do have the mobility to work with it this time instead of that caustic Jibby, so they should be okay. It's just they're going to be really worse for wear once they get back out, and so, yeah, we're going to see them farming a couple extra meds and some other util along the way.
Yeah, we're getting hit with the Optic Gaming special. They are unafraid of these ring changes. They will continue to craft medkits in zone. Damn it, you will not stop the green wall from also being part of the red wall for half the game. You just can't stop them. And this composition adjustment, I think, is very interesting, and I think it could help them a lot because they are a team that can fight. I mean, they are one of the most talented teams in their ability to position during fights. So with a little bit more aggression instead of that turtle power of the Gibby with the caustic, they might be able to tune up that strategy and tune up that advantage that they have against some of the weaker fighting teams. So Optic Gaming here has to make it to zone first, but if they do, they might reap havoc on ring number 4.
It'll take it a minute, and to think the second they get to the next circle, there's just going to be another one that may be just as cruel. We'll see how that befalls them, but in the meantime, the rest of the teams are basically already on their way. It's almost every single other team that's left. Sentinel's about to meet some friends along the way, though. I'm not entirely sure who that is. I think that maybe G-Force, if I'm not mistaken. NRG on the way, and of course, Optic rotating from the southeast. And Sentinels are going to get found out by this exhibit, but it's Luminosity that's actually the next team to fall. And Sentinels, they are aware of what they may be up against, but they're not entirely aware of where they may be. Regardless, they do need to find a way to get either around or through to get to this following circle. It's a question of how they do that and how long it'll take. A following focus of attention to keep Sentinels on their toes, and some high ground contesting makes Sentinels a little bit more jittery.
And this may be a clinic on micro positioning during fights. Here we see Sentinels with the engaged big 81 pump coming out from the PK. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, G-Force is absolutely wiped off the face of the map by Sentinels. There was hardly a time to analyze that play because it went so quick and so effectively. Fantastic use of the ultimate there from the Horizon. Crush on that Horizon, making that look way too easy right now, and they take up that spot on the back of the train.
Crust absolutely destroyed that. NRG making a really great rotation up the north end and actually finding a solid chase down on a separate team. That's one down onto RK, and the rest of Torrent now on the run. And Gil taking some pot shots from afar, but he's actually going to take the brunt of the damage to begin. The rest of NRG trying to run this down, and Torrent has limited space to run away, but they are going to be able to find this building and at the very least bat back up.
Torrent in a very tough spot right now. They can maybe survive this out for a little bit longer, and actually slotting in Aiden the Destroyer and Rambo, so actually lacking many core members of Torrent right now. Very interesting to see there, but they will hold for now, and they have a spot that they can play for late. It looks like this ring may in fact be pulling even harder north and even harder west than it did before, at least if these teams have that sort of information, because Esports Arena is posted deep on the backside here of this train track, so they're already holding out. They don't have the best shield situation, sitting on 3 blues, but they do have, of course, the Watson to save out on some of those resources in terms of shield cells, and of course playing on that Crypto is going to be laying down damage with the ult and with the wingman. My goodness, that was nasty.
You gotta love the wingman still getting all the love and attention it absolutely deserves. In the right hands, it can cause absolute havoc. Esports Arena, they have so much room boosted here. Check out all these gates that just restrict so much competition for this entire stretch, and it looks like they'll get to work with it a little bit longer as this upcoming circle does favor them to an extent. They won't have as much to work with, but I think they'll be just fine outside of it, trying to monitor things out as the rest of these teams continuing to converge on one another. Last I checked, you saw OXG, Torrent, Sentinels all on top of each other at this point practically, but ESA, they are sitting pretty. They are not satisfied with just one win.
We are down to almost half of the teams here before Ring 4 has even started closing, which is absolutely brutal. But we see 2 crypto drones flying around, so I can count at least 2 teams that are probably in this end game. It might mean that Oxygen has also forced their way in. I'm not entirely sure. Or it might have been one of the other squads that we might have missed on the Crypto. We've yet to see. NRG, though, has just been absolutely farming on the edge here. They're doing so much work, and this aggressive composition is not going to stop anytime soon. Someone is caught deep out of ring. They're going to lay down the damage to finish off that knock, possibly loot up if they need to. They are a little low on the heavy ammo department, at least. One member is in this case, but no, they will not go too far out of ring. They don't really need to. They have a really good spot, but their cover is quickly running out. And with where Esports Arena and some of these other squads are posted up, this could be a very tricky situation for NRG.
It's at least one fragmented squad, and here comes another Team Liquid getting absolutely sandwiched. It's just Nocturnal remaining, trying to bat, but he is invaded, and Team Liquid has gone down. Wingman Season still trying to make a getaway at the moment, and it looks like they will so far. So many of these team members just have gotten continuously too big for their britches, including Zednim, who is back on his feet after getting res back up. Sentinels, though, they are one of the fragmented squads. Down low, it's just Crust and Xenox trying to dodge all this pre-firing as they attempt to make their way into, like you said, an even more northwest circle than before. This is absolutely brutal stuff. Another FOA that they're going to get touched by at the very least, and that means they're going to be a team that receives a brunt of aggression at the moment. But Crust going absolutely wild with this wingman. That's so much already diverted, and now they decide to go for Xenox instead. Bit of an easier target, but now the only target is there's only one member remaining, but he's trying to war up everybody. 81 on the PK, and one more block from a knockdown shield means that Sentinels is gone, and Wingman season continues to survive.
And Wingman season will be eliminated here shortly unless Retzi can make some sort of insane movement here to get away from Esports Arena and whatever other squads might be looking at them. Two members of ESA now have walked up and maybe put themselves in a horrible spot to clean up that kill. They don't quite finish it off. But my goodness, Wingman season absolutely obliterated by that two-man. They do clean them up, but the showing there from Sentinels was more than enough to deal all of the psychic damage you could possibly need for the rest of this game. And Esports Arena has eyes in the sky right now. They know exactly where the one rat is, and they're going to have plenty of information on where the rest of the lobby is as well. They can look in front of them to kind of scope out what other team compositions they might be dealing with. Do they have to worry about a Gibby? Do they have to worry about a Caustic ultimate? The amount of information that you pick up from the crypto in these end games is fantastic. So that could definitely come to play here as these zones get tighter and tighter.
100 Thieves attempting to rotate through, and that's not going to work out for them. It's Luxford that finds the final kill on 200 Thieves here. OXG is indeed continuing to survive, so there are still two cryptos on this battlefield, including ESA, who again is still playing that waiting game with Retzi at the moment. Do you move out and risk all of that free fire on you in as open a space as that track, or do you find that one more KP? Meanwhile, SSG perfectly happy hunkering down as they did before. This bunker may look even stronger than the last one as they are once again in this round 5 circle. But just by the skin of their teeth, and their exit has to be perfect if they want to get even higher in the rankings. They got 3rd last time around. OXG did beat them to the punch. Meanwhile, Torrent, the 2 remaining members, are getting a little aggressive at the moment. Retzi attempting to make his great escape, but NRG now moving in on this black hole to find some extra KP along the way, and will find one lurker in the corner. That knockdown shield is not long for this world, with Guild firing away at it, and that is going to be Aiden. Gone thanks to Nathan's final shot. Torrent is only 1 member strong.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that gave me a little bit of deja vu here, seeing NRG picking the perfect spot to take that push, to fight for that spot that is going to get them a way better push into this late game. And I think it was Torrent too that they took out, so maybe this is a story that's just being repeated over and over. Sweet now with the Kraber, incredibly dangerous, has the bolt, has bullets to work with, seems to have meds as well. So now Oxygen being forced to rotate. They had a decent spot near the edge, but with no space left, they are going to have to move. They're going to have to commit to this fight, and it is not going their way right now. They are onto the offensive turtle. They're swinging in. The Eva is putting down damage, but it is not enough. NRG defends, but SSG is here to pick up the pieces.
Senpai whiffing way too much there, and we are indeed getting deja vu. The same sorts of final teams. SSG still in the mix, ESA still in the mix, and NRG certainly was, but no more. SSG's in the final 2. It's the 3v3 versus Esports Arena. Phony Head attempting to find some time to bat back up, but this last building is where the final fight's gonna be. Phony may not have enough time in this high ground, but there's 3 members of NRG ready to aggress. Here comes Plane attempting to chase off and finds an impeccable shot with the PK. More damage on top of that wingman. Zen falls, Frex falls. It's 2 members of ESA versus the 1 on SSG. Clay taking more shots, and a punch will finish it off. Esports Arena, 2 consecutive wins here on World's Edge.
Oh my god, Clean and the boys are looking incredible right now. They do it again. And they are not getting gifted rings. They are not getting easy rotates. They are not just being handed these dubs. They keep taking them and taking them. They're doing it with this crypto as well. If anyone said crypto is dead, hopefully they're recounting their bets right now, because that looked incredible. They did such a fantastic job of controlling all of that space on that northern side of that ring. They eliminated, I think, almost 2 entire teams, really ended up third-partying a very free fight that took out Sentinels as well as 1 other squad. Great job there. They are doing everything right now.
Yeah, no, if you thought that leaderboard wasn't manageable after game number 1, just wait until we find the tallies for game 2, because ESA's KP was once again majestic along the way. Like you said, those rotations were great, but ESA almost went fishing a little more often at that point because they had such an optimized position for so many of those different circles, hunkering down in those caves, and the second they jumped out, they were warded away. They said, okay, fine, we'll stay in the best position on the map right now. Sure, I guess if you say so. And then they're still able to rotate first onto SSG post-fight and take that game. That is absolutely incredible stuff. And game 2 on World's Edge has now been completed. Will Esports Arena's reign continue, or will a new champion be crowned on the final game of World's Edge today? Game 3 comes after this short break.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Don't you just love Sheets?
Joe, good to see you.
It's the kind of place where they know you by name. Yeah, they love saying hey to Joe.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Every
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
single
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
day. Too bad your name is Kevin. Doesn't matter. You're Joe now. Why the Sheets not?
Hello everyone, welcome back. We just had a banger game 2 where Esports Arena continued their dominance in a back-to-back dub. But before we continue, I definitely want to shout out one of our sponsors for today that is helping to put this together, and that is Investor. Investor has some of the best financial tools to get you in a better place, start learning how to invest and keep your portfolio updated and strong. So if you want some of the best resources in the game, be sure to visit pks.gg/investor, pks.gg/investor. Reminder that investing does put your capital at risk and can lead to losses. But right now, Esports Arena is having 0 losses in their portfolio. That was a back-to-back dub from a squad that we kind of mentioned, but I don't necessarily think we were expecting such dominance from that squad.
No L's so far from ESA, and yeah, this is, I would say to an extent, they're still kind of like trialing, like, this is not a locked-in team so far. Fury and Phony have kind of just been running dry through all of these events, and not only have they been surviving, they have been thriving in most of them, and that doesn't stop here at the Carnage Cup, even with all of the stiff competition that it is boasting. I gotta see that score that ESA is boasting at this point, because this leaderboard has to be wild. 39 points from Esports Arena. NRG still rounding up that pack with 29 now. That KP absolutely massive. OXG, those extra points in placement definitely do them well, and SSG continuing to round things out. Man, oh man, this top 5 is looking clean so far.
And you have to shout out NRG as well. We saw them putting on a lot of pressure on the teams. Once a lot of those edge teams got cleared out, they kind of took it upon themselves to say, you know what, we're going to bully the teams outside of zone right now. They took out at least one squad right near the edge of zone number 3, and they continued to fight it out. They took out the last of Torrent as they tried to sneak into that end game as well. So NRG putting on the hurt. But notably, our top 3 has 2 crypto squads right now, Tenrik. Oxygen actually boasting 3rd place, tied up with Space Station Gaming right now. And Oxygen, one of those teams that I You know, I don't do it on purpose. I just bully them because they rotate out of Geyser, but Geyser is not an easy POI to play out of, and they are making it look fantastic right now, rotating clear across the x-axis of the map to the very opposite side, about as far as you could go the other way. Hopefully we get another type of ring, though, because these Northwest rings, as fun as they are to watch, I need to see some variety, man. I need to see some other teams put into some tough rotating positions in the mid game for sure.
Yeah, you got to give some love to those Southern teams, most notably Optic, who is still attempting to prevail and ended up making it to 12th in the previous lobby. But there are a lot of teams that I think we need to pay a little more attention to, as Game 2 really seemed like a lot of teams were starting to butt out, most notably Wingman Season, having a meteoric rise up the leaderboard, grabbing a solid 11 kills in that second game. Absolutely incredible stuff in the process as well. Torrent, I think, made a really solid run throughout that, not just for survivability, but also they did really well in team fights and holding that positioning. I think as long as they have their pathing a little bit better down, they should be fine. 100 Thieves, they have been notoriously quiet these past 2 games, actually, and I really want to see them level up come these final 4 games. And beyond that, I mean, everybody still has so much potential bursting at these teams. Where are these FA Pub Stompers? Where's who? Where's Los Demonios? In fact, Los Demonios was in the final, 6 teams these past 2 games, but they haven't been loud when it comes to KP, and I really want to see that change. Proactivity has clearly led to profit for so many of these squads.
And there's been a lot of squads that have been missing. I think most notably from our southern side, thermal station teams. We have two teams there. We have 2 teams walking in with 3 KP, and both times a very lackluster performance where they're not even making it to those end games. They're rotating out of that POI and really not having a ton of success with the added resources, with the slightly more cleared out rotate, knowing there's at least 1 squad clear off the map to begin with. G2 and Furia have both been absent, and when they are alive into the mid game, because their composition is now being used by so many other squads, or so many other squads have the fighting potential, they aren't just getting steamrolled anymore. They're not just folding to these attacks. They're fighting right back, and sometimes all it takes is 1 stray wingman shot or 1 fantastic spray from one of your controller players to turn the tides and completely roll that team over. So that's what's been happening to both. Are they going to be able to bounce back before our Stormpoint matches? We're about to find out, and they really need it because those leaderboards are not looking good for them.
I also love how diverse this champion pool has become. So many different teams bringing a lot of different ideas to the table. It is now absolutely clear how many contingencies these teams need to have ready. You need to be prepared for those EMPs coming in the final circle, because for all we know, there's going to be 2 of them pop nearly simultaneously come final fight season. There could be a defensive bombardment somewhere in that mix as well. We're still seeing some jibbies and some Nox gases as well from a potential Caustic that we've seen enter the ring a couple times. There's still that Fuse and Maggie in play as well, so a Ring of Fire or Wrecking Ball could really shake up that competition, so your position may need to be better on a high ground at first, although I'm sure those teams don't need to be told that from the jump. I'm sure that they're well aware of that from the start, but regardless, there are so many different plans that teams have to make at the final circle at this point, and this is the apex of it. This is where you have to be fully prepared for it. First circle will reveal itself soon. Will it be in the upper edge again, or will our south side teams finally get some love as we enter game number 3 on World's Edge?
And I'm not gonna lie, talking about some of those character compositions, it must be so frustrating to think, oh yeah, I'm a Gibby, I'm one of the rare Gibbies. If I make it to endgame, my ultimate is gonna blow everyone up. My bubble is going to completely turn these fights, and suddenly 2 cryptos are ulting on your head. That would just absolutely tilt me off the face of the earth. In any case, we're gonna see at least 1 team in face off the edge of this earth here, as G2 and Furia will continue their, looks like, lifelong, game-long contest. I swear if they switched games, they would probably contest there as well. They'd find a way. I don't know. At this point, it's like 70, it's got to be more than 70% ego. We'll see who claims this win, though. And we'll see if they survive, because they're not winning out of this POI, whether they win the first fight or not.
No migration is necessary just yet for either of these teams, but that doesn't mean they're not going to fight. Look at this, Zane already grabbing that purple shield, and Panders is white melting away. Furia, a little bit worse for wear position-wise. They are a little too out and edge at the moment. G2, they were able to take Central here in Thermal to begin. That means Furia, they've got to play this long game, which means one of these teams may not actually end up being 20th.
And don't get it twisted, both of these teams are really good at fighting. Don't get it like in any situation where you see them getting rolled, it's a close fight. It really can come down to little things like whether you end up finding a Phoenix kit that's going to completely recover all your health, or whether you're going to have enough grenades or enough resources to continue the attrition that is the early game fight. But it looks like I was wrong and completely misspoke. No one will be wiped off of World's Edge quite yet because Furia has rotated out. They recognize that the zone finally is pulling towards the southern half of the map and is actually pulling towards thermal station somewhat, most likely a thermal station ring here. So they're going to play it patient. They don't want to give it up just yet. They know that there's a team that might come to third dim tree, so they're just going to get comfortable in these back houses and say, we're playing for the mid game. We're trying to see an entire game of World's Edge. Let's see if they can do it, and let's see if G2 will let them.
Once again, though, Optic is probably one of the biggest losers when it comes to these circles. They will have a bit of an easier path, at least when it comes to round 2, as will Who, and especially Luminosity, but Optic is still going to have to make a trek. Furia and G2, this slight split inside this circle is integral to how both of them will flow throughout it. Designful and Zane both now having their purple shields up. G2 is ready to camp up, but NRG are making their move very quickly, at least onto the forthcoming team, which is SSG, and Frex already down super low. Dropped has to drop this castle wall super early on and across this fissure in order to even make an impact and keep Frex alive, which he will do momentarily, but the rest of this squad is already dropping through. NRG so much damage, but drop that Arcstar on top of the PK is going to slow things down a lot, and it is actually NRG that gets punished in Space Station Gaming that survives.
And you have to use the Newcastle ultimate forward. I have said this time and time again, if you find a way to use it aggressively and get up in your opponent's faces, that's actually what can really turn the tides, because suddenly you have crazy angles, you have cover, and you have an ability to deny them grenades and engage if they walk into the wall. Great recognition here from this squad using that Newcastle, I think, in the most correct way here, and they end up picking up 3 KP, and they end up recovering, surviving, and staving off G2's potential third party. G2 recognizes, all right, we don't want anything to do with this. We have a decent spot. We're going to wait. Great fight there.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure coming from G2 right after, but Space Station, they managed that so perfectly. That was such an amazing castle wall on top of all the pressure coming from Dropped. Crazy, crazy stuff to recover. If I woke up and you told me today, hey, NRG is going to come in 20th in one of these games, I might have believed you, but if I got to see it with my own 2 eyes, then I would be, I don't even know what I would be. I feel like I would have too many emotions running through my head at once. Here's G-Force taking a relatively uncontested spot. James Capra and Bronzy are actually going to take some shots. Bronzy having to scurry over into this building. It's G-Force that needs to, once again, bunker up. They are safe for now, as are a lot of these teams. We've seen some migrations come mighty early than normal. Here's Los Demonios as well. Once again, a team that has made it pretty late into these previous games, but KP has been lacking, and because of that, they haven't really been too prominent in the leaderboard. In fact, they are barely top 10.
And they are potentially looking up at one of the top 10 teams here, Team Liquid. At least after game 1, they were sitting top 10. They didn't have the most amazing game number 2, but nothing too shabby either. Those Demonios, once again, recognizing that they're outside of ring. They don't necessarily want to take a fight with someone that might be stacked with gold shields or at least gold items. They're going to make their rotate out. This is a spot that's going to be very highly contested here and a very important transition point for a lot of teams, notably our Geyser team in Oxygen. They're already down 1 member completely, and Protectful, is already on the ground as well. So 1 member of Oxygen left to try and survive the attack from none other than Sentinels. Sentinels slowing things down, but they are getting looked at by another squad, so they can't just walk down and clean this up for free. Torrent actually committing the ultimate here from Aiden the Destroyer to pick up this kill. They do indeed. That's a cheeky little 1 KP for Torrent. But already we're seeing the amount of contests that are happening in this transition point. This choke here to the north of Lava Siphon is going to be very important for teams to hold. This is where a lot of the edge teams on the north side of the map are going to pick up a lot of their value coming in.
Now here's Tripods up here in Thermal attempting to duke it out. Nick Mercs in the squad attempting to try and take this fight, and they are a bit worse for wear for it, but there's no extra engagement on top of it. It's crazy. I think G-Force was also there on top of Torrent, so poor guys just, Oxygen. So poor guys just could not catch a break. And Fury is actually gonna take some falls as well from Optic, of all people. Their migration has been very soon as well. Now Tripod's re-engaging on these steps as everyone is batted back up. Deed's the first to fall on Tripod's side. Nick Merckx doing all he can, but can't even break one singular shield. It's just down to Gent, and Tripods are down at the hands of G2.
But G2 needs to recover Designful quickly, and Designful already taking flesh damage on the ground. Zane getting pushed in incredibly hard. There is an enemy ultimate here. It's going to stave off the recovery of G2. G2 down another member now. Chaotic is going to do what they can to try and survive, trying to live this out. They hear that there might be a res going on. They're going to peek it here. Lays down quite a bit of damage, but that's a purple shield, and you're not even healed up full flesh. G2 is eliminated by Optic Gaming on this rotate.
Wow. Great to watch Optic find their evolution this game at the very least. Elevate, also a team that's been eliminated pretty early on through these past 2 games, but in the process hasn't really been able to find much KP either. Currently, a 4 on the scoreboard. You got to remember that in this $10,000 prize pool, only the top 3 teams are going to be able to get any piece of it. Golden getting shredded, and so the rest of the squad is going to hop back out. It's Ass trying to follow suit. Furia will fall finally. I'm sorry, I have to read the kill feed for a second, but that is a big benchmark considering G2 is still alive. Ass attempting to re-engage here, but among these different cliffs and frags, also with that potential third party watching them, both E8 and the ladder are going to hightail it, at least for now. Mercy and Presley, the only ones remaining. Golden has fallen, so question is, how does E8 adapt from this point on? Their rotation is not going to be impeccable from this state, considering that the circle does not entirely favor them, and they also don't have all their people up. We gotta head over to Wingman season, though, in the process, as Zedman is the last one alive. In the meantime, Torrent is the team that is again taking this aggression, and Zednim on 1. It is once again Torrent that finds the final kill.
And Torrent is having a really important game here. They've cleared out plenty of squads, so now their rotation is all that much easier to make. They've most likely dealt with most of the teams that they have to run into on the northwest rotates of this map. They have plenty of loot as well, and they have that Valkyrie that they can potentially rotate with as well. So they will be a little bit later to this party that's already breaking out for multiple squads, including Luminosity Gaming, who has been knocked out very early in the last couple of games, but now they're going to be knocking down Vize and potentially picking up even more KP on their way over to this building. And towards this end game, they're finally going to get to see it here, but they're still 14 squads up, and Yaya is not going to get that damage for free. Actually gets traded out. I don't know who did all of that damage and the flesh from a distance. I want to say that might have been Graver damage as well. I didn't see the rest of the health, but that was brutal. Luminosity, though, living for now.
Well, I imagine who isn't exactly happy about Vize being dropped, so Luminosity, their job may not be done yet, but Mercy's isn't done either. The lone member of Elevate currently standing just about alone, but about to run into a 3-man. RNG, Renegades waiting in the wings, along with Optic as well. With the amount of time with these teams dropping so quickly this time around, everybody kind of has their own space despite how quickly these rings are attempting to force these teams to fight even more. Optic is pretty happy where they are, which I think that's the first time they've been able to say that all day. Renegades able to actually stick down with this Watson and take a second, take a breather, and it's all coming down to the rest of these teams and how they adapt to the movement. It was on the northern and northeastern teams to actually really make their moves this time. Very much different, but Sentinels, one of the teams that still had to migrate a little bit, is currently not looking too solid. All Wingman whips coming from Crust, having to bat out on the tack, and is not going to make it through. It's just Lou left. The question is, do you try to run this out, or do you try to re-engage? I think I might know what the answer is inside this exhibit. Lou, they actually just try and play some ranged here, as Synox and Crust are both out of commish for the moment. Everybody getting super fragmented here. We'll see a lot of rat squads come close to the end of this. Lou attempting to kick through here, taking 2 different kicks on 2 different doors, but just as it opens up, oh, what management coming from Slurpee, and Sentinels will fall.
Yep, it looked like they were going to be victims to LG there as well, but LG doesn't end up taking them out. Now Torrent are the ones that are potentially looking to sneak into this ring and potentially punishing Ass, as well as Luminosity Gaming, dealing a lot of damage. Aiden the Destroyer doing exactly that, absolutely dismantling this squad. Closest off that exit point with the stairs and the ultimate. Torrent now flying into this bottom floor, absolutely obliterating that Ass. Oh my goodness.
Torrent is flying through. That was smooth, Mello. That was really smooth.
Am I gonna get fined?
Oh, man.
I hope not.
Torrent, oh my goodness, Torrent flying through this map right now. So many KP already on the board, and they are not finished yet. They are so kitted out at the moment. Aiden, RKN, and Reeds all contributing to the fight. Here's another! Rather, they're able to take care of it just like that. Luminosity's down. Torrent finds top 10 placement. They are on fire here in Game 3.
Torrent is hungry right now, and they are hungry for kills, and they're potentially hungry for this dub. If they continue to pick off teams like this, they might very well be on their way. TL looking down on them right now, though, and they have some pretty good angles, as well as a composition that is well known for dishing out the damage. There are grenades flying, there are cluster bombs, just demolishing those shields right now. TL has gotten up to 3 purples in the meantime, but Sykes almost drops. They have to do damage to this flying member. RKN does indeed go down. Right now, Team Liquid in a very strong position to finish off this fight. Can they do it before they get third party, though? That is the question. Nocturnal holds on for now. TL punishing that team, and that looked absolutely brutal. Great shots from Sykes.
Fun's tracking is absolutely ridiculous right now, and the Ring of Fire, along with that Wrecking Ball, is still on the table at the moment. Team Liquid, they are playing so safely, even though they're in such a dangerous situation. Nocturnal attempting to find this finisher, but there is still a Torrent squad left to go. What a noisy fight that this is turning out to be, but the question is, will these teams cave and leave what buildings they feel so safe in, or will they turn this around? Aiden and Reeds looking to turn this around. Reeds taking so much free fire from 2 and will fall for it. It's just down to Aiden, and he's got a lot of damage on him, but 2 members on his tail. And Torrent falls to Team Liquid.
Yo, they made TL sweat there. Now TL is definitely sweating. Nocturnal committing to sticking this for now. Is going to be able to get it. Will he survive? Actually, he starts popping the bat, but realizes he might still be in range and in sight lines of potentially Renegades, I think, is the team holding up there. So TL does survive, but they will not reap all of the benefits of that fight because they have to get moving. They cannot even loot. They've actually downgraded shields. They were on like 3 purples. Now they're down to 1 purple and 2 blues as they walk into an arguably much worse endgame situation here. Not even endgame. We are halfway through these rings, baby. TL is going to have to find something here, some corner, some piece of solace to hopefully continue surviving. They picked up the KP, but at what cost, Henrik?
The cost of big movement. They stayed at that southern end for far too long trying to find Torrent, but Torrent just found so much along the way. I'm sure that they're more than satisfied with what that game brought them, and they are going to shoot up this leaderboard if all goes well. Los Demonios, again, still so quiet. No KP, at least for Hakulo, and they're trying to engage with SSG in the process, but look how much they have to boast. All these gates, the Newcastle wall is up. There is no way anybody is coming to them. It's a question of when will SSG leave, and the answer is not anytime soon. Los Demonios, they will be able to camp this out, but they're risking being seen by teams like ESA, who also has a lot of space to boast for themselves. And what a surprise, Mello, they're in the circle.
Yeah, they are well inside this circle. Esports Arena. This group is doing so much work, and they have a Kraber to work with, as well as ridiculous. A massive hello. Like, they've picked up all of the package weapons on this rotate as well, which means that if they didn't have the fighting power before with this composition, they sure as heck have it with these weapons. So no team is going to be messing with them anytime soon, which means they get an end game here most likely, especially with the spot that they're holding. They have a lot of angles. Los Demonios wants to push SSG out of this building. I don't think they recognize just how pyloned up and just how gridded up that top spot is. That second floor looks pretty impenetrable, but I've seen it happen. I had to buy it by words doing a VOD review the other day because the Newcastle Watson is breakable in a lot of scenarios. But does Los Demonios, excuse me, have the tools to do it? Well, that's yet to be seen because Tech is still on blues. So not the best situation all around, and Ring 4 is closing.
Well, here's the thing. I think both of these teams are playing it very well. LDM understanding that pylon, that shield, that castle wall, they're all on timers, and so they're able to kind of work around this, especially when that pylon times out. They'll be able to shoot a lot more in there. And so, in response, SSG is engaging early on, kind of back and forth, kind of piecemeal, to make sure that these bats and other, heals are farmed out as much as possible. So when SSG eventually does have to engage a little bit more, Los Demonios have to play fully committally. Here come the grenades after the pylon is fully gone, which means that SSG are going to peek a little more often, and Luxford already taking a huge chunk of damage here. Everybody's going to bat back out, and actually Luxford does get spotted momentarily there from that high ground, but SSG, they are sitting pretty for a couple more crucial seconds.
Yeah, they will hold out
Oh,
for
Mercy's
now.
still alive.
E8 is still alive. If Pulverix have taught us anything, it's that you can't doubt the duos. I don't even think there's a duo left in this case. E8's still alive and is racking up those placement points, those scraps. They all end up counting. They can't all be critical. And it looks like Tech and the crew have found other victims to fight out with, but Tech actually gets dropped. And now Los Demonios down one member and most likely will have to leave them behind unless they can stabilize in this corner and pick up that member. But it looks like another squad is still looking down on them. It was SSG earlier. Yes, indeed, they are dropping down. Zen drops Hakulo, and that is the end of Los Demonios. Space Station Gaming eventually punishes that crew who did not commit to any of those pushes and ends up falling as a result. TL has actually rotated and improved their armor situation as well as their positioning. They take down a member of Renegades who are holding the top spot up here in the tower, and they're going to clean up that team as well. That's TL picking up 3.
So many of these teams now officially on fire, but Elevate's still alive. Don't count them out of this top 5. SSG, I mean, what great management up against Los Demonios, understanding the second that attention was diverted. That was their one shot at jumping back down, but on this corner, on this edge of the circle, they're already getting re-aggressed with a drone EMP to boot, but with this pylon, it should be a little easier to continue contesting from afar, which is exactly what SSG is going to do. Beautiful PK shot to find 63, and that's the go button for Dropped, who, as always, is going to try and destroy with this flatline as well. That's one down. That's a follow-up onto the pylon, but he falls in the process. It's down to 2, and ESA is the team that falls. We will not have a triple victor.
ESA is denied that crypto ultimate. Space Station wins by a sliver. That could have made all of the difference here. That broken drone is going to hurt for days, I promise you. And now Space Station doesn't have the best armor situation, but does have a decent spot to play. And E8 is still alive and in the top 3, no less. That is no longer placement scraps. That is a placement that teams fight for, and EA is picking it up right now, and they could pick up even more if TL ends up wiping the squad on top or vice versa.
It's TL and SSG with Mercy waiting to rat for second place for those crucial extra placement points that Elevate is so hungry for. And while TL has the low ground, they have more ground to work with in the first place. SSG is going to have to drop at some point in 3, 2, 1. Down they come to the lava, and Team Liquid is able to farm away at both squads, including Mercy stuck between a rock and a hard place. Team Liquid take game 3.
Team Liquid takes the right fight towards the edge of ring number 4, and they manage to squeeze their way in just enough to open up all of that space. They end up finishing RNG as well, and they control that entire southern side of that final ring, able to punish everyone in their sight. They had red shields, they had the resources, and they get a beautiful game 3 win.
But that being said, SSG with that crazy KP and Elevate with that rat in Mercy, all 3 of those remaining teams stuck in that lobby did an incredible job, and I can't wait to see what the leaderboard thinks of things. That is the end of World's Edge here in the Carnage Cup, at least for day 1. That's right, people. We are only a quarter of the way through this event, halfway done for today. When we come back, game 1 on Storm Point.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Hello everyone, welcome back. We are done and dusted with our World's Edge games. Game number 3 was taken down by none other than Team Liquid. My name is Millicrit, joined once again by Tenric, and we're serving you up some fantastic Apex. While you're at it, why the sheets not? Serve yourself some ice cream. 99-cent soft serves, that's right, you heard it, 99 cents for some fantastic ice cream from our sponsor Sheets. Be sure to download the app and get your deals at pks.gg/sheets. Again, that is pks.gg/sheets with a Z at the end. And that was a fantastic game, a different zone finally, which was really great to see towards the south, and a totally different winner, this time not Esports Arena. What do you think?
I think that was so well played from so many teams that we have just been waiting to really pop off. Space Station Gaming and Team Liquid, absolutely, of course, the highlights of that, and they have made a well-deserved hop onto the leaderboard. Let's take a look at where we are at this point. Esports Arena still up there thanks to those 2 wins, but Team Liquid so close behind thanks to the 26 KP they have already racked up in these 3 games. They got 11 kills in Game 1 and 11 kills in Game 3 on top of the win in the latter. Absolutely insane stuff. Poor Furia in last place at the moment. Either they lost to G2 to contest early on, or they fell right next to G2 in the standings in Game 3. Really tragic stuff coming from them, but I really do think that was a game where a lot of teams started to learn stuff, but it may have been too little too late because we are moving on faster than some of these teams can as we head to Storm Point for game number 4.
And Esports Arena still looked good there. Even though they didn't pick up the win, they maintained their spot in the leaderboard because they had a good rotation, regardless of what the end game ended up looking like. They held a pretty good spot, whether they executed properly, whether they took the right fight. That's a bit of a different question. The Newcastle, the busted crypto drone made a huge difference in that fight. Again, it came down to pixels. It came down to literally one shot. The biggest lie your ranked teammates will ever tell you. But in that situation, it certainly was very close fight. So Esports Arena could have had a very different game, but we're at a knife's edge in these fights. All of these teams are really talented. So that's all it takes. 1 fight lost is 1 game lost. TL, though, doing a lot of the heavy lifting earlier in the game, taking out Torrent, ended up taking out Renegades as well, ended up recovering a lot of those resources that they lost in one of those earlier fights on the south part of Thermal, and actually come back for the win with that southern side completely free and all their own to take over.
And again, that top 3 is what you're fighting for. You have that $10,000 prize pool at your fingertips. $6,000 to first, $3,000 to second, and $1,000 to third. Beyond that, you are fighting for glory and nothing more than that. You gotta get on the podium, and so far, Esports Arena, they have maintained their position, but as we swap maps, there could be some new fighters entering the ring. Of course, Furia's magnum opus, Storm Point. This is where they really could finally find their climb up the leaderboard as soon as they get past that G2 wall that has seemingly continued to falter them so far. But beyond that, Los Demonios, a team that we've been seeing get to these top 6, top 7 situations these past 3 games without many KP to support them. We'll see if they can level up sometime soon here. Team Liquid, which has been getting even better on Storm Point than World's Edge. I'm wondering if they're going to be able to take another win by the end of the day. And beyond that, this is only half of the event today. There's another 6 games going on tomorrow, so some of these teams may just be on their off day. Tomorrow they could really find their stride or slip up even further than that. We're finally dropping in for game number 4 of 6 today, 4 of 12 overall here in the Knights Carnage Cup.
And I can't wait to see potentially another contest here. If these teams decide they want to continue to be aggressive, we might actually see more than 1 contest. We see those red pings there as our Relay squad drops onto Cenote Caves. Let's see if they are able to win out this engagement. Very different spot. And actually 1 member of G2 dropping right in their faces and getting dropped.
That's Tripods. That's Gent from Tripods, actually. So already, Tripods in a bit of a dire situation. They're going to be down 1 just like that. They have to continue to try and contest Caves, and they don't have the best ground to do it. The rest of Ass still has this higher floor to their advantage. Albralele, of course, TSM is not here, but Albralele is in a big way trying to fight against 2 with just a Sentinel boasted and having to reload on the back foot in order to keep himself stable. So many POIs actually early contested. That northern side as well was looking really crazy, which it looks to be where a lot of these teams are headed, as continuing to find these pot shots on another rusher, and Tripods is completely gone in 20th.
Yeah, Gent absolutely breaking my ankles there.
What
And
is...
Furia right now breaking
Furia.
their soul is G2, the right G2 this time. Gent is not on the squad, but Chaotic certainly is, and the disrespect is there. This was a contest that we were actually expecting, but we have a total of 3 contests on the map right now as Luminosity Gaming is also eliminated. Fantastic work here from G2 though, who is going to get their first Storm Point game with the northeastern side of the map free for them to pick and loot at, but not with a lot of time to do it. 4 minutes and 30 seconds as Ring 1 is already closing.
Yeah, you're on a crunch in so many of these spots, and while they were able to take care of one, they still have so much more to deal with, including this other squad that they have to watch on the other end. This migration is gonna be tough from Caves. But if there's a team that's willing to do it, it's Ass. Coming up against Oxygen. Actually, Scissors already out of shields, but who cares when you have so much of it? Senpai and Protectful both on purple, Scissors on the blue. Focus of attention just to try and fish out Scissors to greed him would help Ass in such a big way to be able to farm out those 2 extra purple shields and get Ass practically maxed out within the bottom 5 here would be absolutely massive. It's Renegades that falls next, though. Oxygen still on the run, and 2 falling along the way. It's Slurpee and Albraleli here in a 1v2. Holding up that high ground, has to drop down soon, and the weapon advantage is towards Ass. Oxygen falls.
Over here.
And Albraleli's squad is now 6 KP strong and also has full purples.
God, that is infuriating. You hate to see it, but you also love to see it. They get
Infuriating.
fired there. The lone shot. Aha. Anyway,
Thank
TL
you so much,
is
Mello.
making their rotation here. Actually, not quite rotating. I believe they dropped Cascade, so they're actually big chilling right now, picking up that beacon information while they are at it. Yes, indeed. Sykes going to pick that up, and they are back on Loba. We actually saw this, I believe, for Champs and in Sweden especially, where they did really, really well with a very similar composition, though you will notice that the Newcastle is now slotted in place of that Gibraltar. So, again, say what you will about that character and say what you will about Loba, but somehow Team Liquid has made this work in a lot of ways. Is it the best pick for them? That is yet to be seen, but they continue to have decent success with it in Stormpoint, and Cascade Falls being one of those POIs where you have kind of 2 things. You have all of the options at your disposal, right? Your center map, you have a lot of different ways that you can rotate, but at the same time, when the map pulls straight towards you, well, you have to figure out how you're gonna get all of those resources. Loba can only loot so much for you outside of your POI, so as teams start to flood in and take up space near Team Liquid, they're going to have to use those resources like the Newcastle and hold on to their meds and their bullets for as long as possible before they start fighting too much and end up out of resources and out of the game.
It definitely helps that they have this circle. It helps TL go with what they've been going for recently, with Guild out of the picture instead of that, I don't want to say rat squad, but sort of a more slowly winded rotation squad that TL has gone for. They're just really good at finding their spots where they can really hunker down and bunker up. Instead, TL finds their spot and starts to infect the rest of the map like a virus, slowly but surely taking more and more space as time goes on, and then having dealer's choice of where they end up going to, which at that point is too many options to pick from. TL, they're trying to find that paradise in Storm Point, but with a centralized circle like that, they actually won't have too much room to go before they get properly contested. Sentinels don't have to deal with that problem just yet, though, as they're not in circle at the moment, but they absolutely have the kit to be able to jump into any fight inside of it. Both Sinox, Loot, and Crust all properly kitted up and having some solid weapons to call their own, and a little more space to boast along the way, but none of these 3 teams can say the same. Optic currently looking down the faces of both G-Force and Torrent in separate buildings. None of them have to move just yet, though.
And was in a horrible place to rotate into this ring, taking a look at who they might be risking running into. Not a whole lot. I mean, High Point might opt to take that rotation towards the west and down towards wall, but because they can sit on that crafter for a little bit and they haven't gotten pressured quite yet, there's a good chance that their north side is pretty well deserted, so they will be able to walk a little bit and take up residence near the edge of that exact same POI. Looks like Ass has won out on a lot more engagements than I think they were expecting to run into here, but they are reaping the benefits in a big way. Here we see one of the other teams that might be contesting this rotation from Sentinels, 100 Thieves. Command Center is also a great spot to play out of if this ring starts to pull a little bit further south and towards cascades, and also, of course, some of the dreaded end rings that end literally right outside the front gates of it. So 100 Thieves just taking up space for now, waiting, biding their time to see if they can find a decent fight, but it looks like they won't be able to choose their battle here if they're engaged by this team behind them. They have given up a little bit too much room in command center, and now a squad says, hello, we are here to kick you out of your house and maybe kick you out of the game.
This is an okay spot to have, though, especially with that Ashe. At any point, they can GTFO if they want to. They just need to clear out these spaces. 100 Thieves, poor guys, they haven't really had the best positioning the past 3 games on World's Edge, so they weren't even able to really farm too much KP or placement points just yet. They're currently sitting at 8 in the bottom 6 of the leaderboard, but there's still 3 Storm Point games to change that, and of course, 100 Thieves notorious at this point for trying to push that envelope when it comes to the meta, and I think Ashe, as well as Fuse, is a great way to say, hey, we're trying to do that again. Meanwhile, Ass taking their sweet time with this long-winded rotation. They were staying in Storm from Cenote a little bit longer than required, but they're still taking their sweet time. They have no idea how much free roaming space they have, and well, it might be better that way considering that along the way they'll be able to find even more cool stuff to work with as they try and take over the lobby.
Yeah, getting that a Skull Piercer on the wingman doesn't feel too terrible in this situation. And they're sitting on KP, which obviously makes a big difference, not only because they have some extra points to work with should they go out a little bit earlier than expected. They've also cleared out all of 2 teams from potentially running into later on in the game. So they can be a little bit more comfortable, maybe opting to take a little bit more time, maybe craft, maybe just wait on your rotation a little bit and let some other teams get aggressive for you so you can third party. It opens up a lot of your game plan when you've already cleared out the squads that might be pressuring you into unfavorable situations. So they are feeling pretty good right now. NRG also not doing too bad for themselves, though, as we approach, you know, the latter half of the game, these ring 2 and 3 situations where you really have to rack up either your kills if you're an edge or an aggressive team, or in the case of NRG here, they're looking for a little bit more loot and maybe a fight as well to level up those shields.
G-Force, a proper contest up against Torrent. They finally made their move, and it looks like Torrent is going to be completely happy with it. James Fearless falling. Bronzy and Capra going to try and hightail it as there's still a lot more room in this circle left, and they certainly don't want to deal with a top 15 placement at this late of a stage in day number 1. NRG also taking some solid shots. They have an even better position debatably, but they still have to get inside this circle and have to work with a couple grenades and a team on the other side of this wall. Who may it be? I'm not entirely sure just yet, and NRG doesn't necessarily know either. Nathan and Sweet attempting to push this door while this rotation to keep defensive prowess is still stable. A black hole pretty early on, so NRG can continue just slowly but surely pushing through, and it looks like they will eventually be able to do that after all this utility gets eventually melted away. Nathan gonna open this door back up again. Here come the shots from behind this tree. No shots onto this head. Nathan has to back up. And NRG, they are really stuck here for the moment, but the exhibit will certainly help at least in getting these distance plays, is they really can't do much more than that for the moment. Now Nathan is going to attempt to push this in. The black hole is already utilized, though, so you just have to fight a little bit better, and it looks like Nathan is doing so far. The Nox Gas, though, to counter. There's a caustic on this opposite side of the squad, and Sweet is going to take the brunt of the damage for it. Now the rest of NRG attempting to circulate, and get around this tree, and they will do so to an extent, but Nathan falls along the way. Guild trying to fire through on this knockdown shield, but Nathan is fully down, which means at the very least NRG knows where at least one of these opponents are. It is Vize and the rest of who that fall to NRG, only losing 1 member along the way.
Who does hold out there for a lot longer than I think NRG was hoping, so much so that Nathan actually gets dropped, but no bother because they do have that mobile res beacon, so they're probably going to pop that down here soon, flashing it a little bit. They still have Sweet on that Kraber, which, to be truthful, didn't have the most impact in that fight. It's just kind of one of those situations you run into where it can be, you know, a blessing and a curse. If you get that nasty hip fire shot that breaks the fight wide open, you're feeling pretty good. If you're running into caustic gas, you can't see anything, and you didn't open frag, well, stuff like Nathan dropping all the way and getting full thirsted are some of those punishes that can't come through. So I'm sure that they will recover a little bit here. They are on the edge of ring, and they have quite a bit of ways to walk. OG looking really good here. Optic Gaming looking up towards command center, feeling pretty good about their shield situation, and we're seeing them in a map where they've had some mixed results. They haven't had every game, you know, be amazing and go their way on Stormpoint, but they are back on that Gibby meta, which is interesting here. I'm surprised they've pivoted back to the Gibby after we swapped over to Stormpoint.
It's funny, I never thought I'd say something like this, but I'm glad that Optic doesn't have to move that far. It feels like they deserve this after they got so gypped on World's Edge. They finally are able to, you know, stock up, take stock of how this game is going to be, and they have a lot of control around this general area, a lot of directions they can look. You can see how far Skittlecakes is actually rotating here and extending themselves. Sentinels, Crust taking some pot shots as well, just to farm up this damage and perhaps keep a Valk dive from going on. Not too many rats entering the ring so far. Elevate is still fully stable, don't worry guys. Nobody able to really take too much high ground either. It's been all about the movement towards this circle so far, as no team has been really fully satisfied with exactly where they are. And I think that's part of the beauty of Stormpoint, is that one space is never fully invulnerable. There's always the next thing to move on to.
Absolutely, and Space Station Gaming will certainly have to look onto their next thing here, dealing with a rotation that is being slightly kept out by Zednam and the squad that is also pressuring Optic from their backside. So a lot of pressure being exerted, but like you said, Optic does have quite a bit of space to work with. They're a little split right now, but that's how they're choosing to play this, to make sure they gain maximum pressure. But just downhill of them, Space Station Gaming has finally made a decision and comes down with the push. Full crack on those purple shields, but almost going down for it. The bubble goes down to try and hold out just a little longer, give it a bit of a reset. But Rex is not interested in resetting. He wants to go, go, go. Wreaths falls, but there's a lot of damage being dealt back to SSG. Zen, the last member, up with shields. Big shots from Fretch, though, dropping Aiden. And Arcan is going to pick up Zen on the way out, so the third party is there. It is timely, and Torrent is about to ruin Space Station's game, cleaning up those thirsts from those knocks. The third party there, just absolutely brutal. And they're going to be able to pick up a little bit more placement points if an escape. No, they can't. Space Station Gaming is eliminated.
SSG fully gone now, and Los Demonios attempting to pick up the pieces on top of that. They're doing a pretty dang good job of it so far, but one will fall in process. It's Hakulo, but the rest of Wingman season will fall in the end. It is Los Demonios that finally has some KP on the board. It seems like it's been forever since they actually were able to get any. But I want to take a second and go back to that fight that SSG was stuck in. It feels great to watch Dropped continue to kind of push that front line, as he absolutely should as that defensive champion, but it didn't exactly feel like their push was completely necessary in that fleeting moment. They kind of made that beeline, and that one moment was completely unnecessary. There was still way too many resources I think they were able to farm out maybe. And they could have taken their time just a little bit longer, but Stormpoint doesn't necessarily favor that. It favors the go, go, go. And so I totally understand why Space Station made that gamble. It failed this time, but it could very well go their way next time, and that's the beauty of the format that this boasts. 6 games today, 6 games tomorrow. Optic trying to take some extra points of their own here in Game 4. Skittlecakes has to bat back up, but they're able to get a solid zone out on these other teams that they're, again, attempting to just whittle down and force them to bat a little more often than they do. Great stuff to see from Optic, just continuously forming their own embankments, more and more adaptive each time. They are quickly evolving through this lobby, and I expect to see them do even more as time goes on, both through these games and the games tomorrow. But you could say the same about any team. The question is, how meteoric will that rise be? Hunt of Thieves, another team that has a big old question mark on their heads, not only because Vayne has been in the conversation for a while now and is now playing with them today and tomorrow, but they also haven't really done that well so far these past couple games.
Yeah, they haven't done a whole lot, but Anmu is on the Ashe, which is a very unique pick that we haven't seen a whole lot of, and it is paired with that fuse. So I think the W key is firmly ready to be pressed, glued down, and honestly just ran down against some of these other teams. But so far, not a ton of success. We see no damage here. Meanwhile, Optic, I have to shout out Optic because they have held this spot so well, and this is something that they excel at, right? They sneak in a ring, they turn around, they punish teams. They sneak in a ring, they turn around, they punish teams. They are still not inside ring here, at least not quite, yet they are doing so much work to keep teams out and to potentially pick up KP. They can't commit to anything too hard here. Obviously, their composition is a little bit slower, holding that Gibby, but they're looking at Los Demonios, and Los Demonios is looking up at a potentially a really bad time if they can't find a way to sneak in. But look at all of the angles. Look at the coverage. The LOS coverage that you see from all of these other squads is going to make it very difficult for Los Demonios to do anything here. So their rotate is going to be absolutely brutal. There's teams on the low ground whose rotate is also going to be absolutely brutal. Even the teams like us who have a building to hold, look at where they're positioned. It's not the best building to defend, and they don't have defensive characters to to hold it. So if they get pushed down by an aggressive team that might outfight them in one instance, that could spell the end of this squad.
Oh, Optic and Los Demonios are duking it out currently on that rotation spot. Optic were eventually forced to move in thanks to that zone coming in, and they're trying to back each other up, but Skittle has already fallen. Duplex and Noct attempting to finish things off, but as this zone moves in, it gets tougher and tougher. Tech finally falling, but getting Skittle Cakes along the way, and Noct ratting it out so he can make a run for it away from Los Demonios. But on the way, it's Sentinels that clean things up, and Noct gives a hearty thank you, but maybe not for long, as Sentinels is also taking shots at Noct on the runaway. Oh, what a 180 this game is taken for Optic Gaming. Barely able to dodge that focus of attention, but at least two teams know exactly where Noct is at the moment, and so he's still on the run towards this follow-up circle. He has no idea where he's gonna have to end up staying, but that is not on his mind right now. What's on his mind is staying alive, and he will not be able to do that. Optic falls in 9th.
Oh my God, he ran through the whole middle of the zone in front of every single team, probably took a bullet from every member of the lobby right now. I think the amount, I don't know if people recognize the amount of patience it takes for a controller player to stand there with a car fully loaded up and a character standing right in front of you, almost still shooting, unaware of your existence. For you not to hit that right trigger, oh my goodness, he really paid the tax there. Didn't survive for long, unfortunately, but that could have turned into something, and I think that's worth mentioning here. But Ass stays alive, and they will have to move. I said, but they will have to move. We already knew that they were going to have to make a shift here, and it is going to be a shift to a kind of an interesting position. Look at the way this ring has pulled. A lot of teams that had a decent spot are now having to shift their focus over to the squads that are holding up on this wheel. NRG already did that. We saw 100 Thieves sitting up there earlier, and 100 Thieves currently going down to NRG.
Seems like forever ago that Ass, in the meantime, was able to find all those kills. They've been relatively quiet the rest of this, and it's mainly because, again, the rotation has been so slow. They haven't really worried about finding more KP. They've just been worried about slowly but surely getting inside these final squads, and they've been doing a dang good job at it, holding down this corner, and now they're going to be able to burn practically for free. They will have to move in just a little bit more, and a lot of POVs they'll have to worry about, including that high ground from NRG, but it looks like that's where they're actually targeting. No, they're going to split up and head to this backside. That's beautiful stuff, because now NRG can't target them without dropping down. That's a great way to adapt from Slurpee G, but can the rest of them catch up? Albert Lely attempting to, but Slurpee saying, nah, guys, this isn't safe anymore. Let's hide in a different corner.
And I think you can shoot down from the slits through some of this wheel work, so not the most amazing spot here. But at this point in the game, at this point in the ring position, you just have to turtle and live and pick up whatever KP you can on the way in. Esports Arena, absent from our top 5 this time around. They will not make it in, and teams continue to fall out. E8 is also knocked out. We see Sweet in the kill feed with the Kraber finally doing work, this time onto Sentinels, who took out at least one other squad on the edge earlier in our fighting. So NRG now holding a great spot, finally finished us off, 100 Thieves, and they are looking down with free shots left and right. They are pinging. You can probably already hear Sweet in the back of your head just saying, look here, look here. Free shots, free kills, free your KP. Like, we need the points, and this is the time to do it, because NRG is sitting in one of those spots in the top 3 of our leaderboard. So if they get kills here and they pick up a dub, that could be a huge win in game number 4.
Yeah, this feels like a dream sequence. Sweet is on the high ground and has a Kraber and is in top 5. I mean, that just feels so, it almost feels too perfect for the situation. Like, this game isn't real, or the servers are going to crash in the final 5 seconds. We'll have to start from scratch or something like that. I just cast a curse, did it. I know, I'm almost apologetic for it, but I have to focus on this game first, because it is so still filled with actionable teams who have a lot of space, actually, comparatively. But NRG has more space than anybody. You got 3 players continuing to crack down on anybody in their sights, and right now, that is on the far end of this circle, which is converging more than anywhere else. NRG, they can play as non-committal as they want, and yet here they are, still continuing to do the most damage in the lobby. Nathan with the down, and Sentinels falls.
Oh my God, NRG is eating good today. This is ridiculous. They need to do nothing more here other than stall out and wait. GeForce as a duo is punishing the likes of Team Liquid, who is rotating it a little late. They don't even know where they are. Look at this. They think they're still in the building, but they're actually just holding this crate, and NRG doesn't actually have angles against this. So finally Capra catches on and says, look, we've got a team here. We've got a group that we can maybe pick up some KP on, but they might have made that decision too late. Bronzy has not dropped down his shield. It finally goes down. Capra putting down the generator as well, so they will live for a moment longer. It looks like NRG has not opted to take this down, and that's because they've been knocked down from their height, and Sweet has been knocked down completely. So NRG, formerly in Godspot, now has to fight for their lives. They're getting looked at from this height. I don't know who's dealing all of that damage, but it is a lot of damage for sure. NRG knocks out TL. G-Force is eliminated, so ultimately the final squad will pick it up, and that is none other than ASS. Albert Laley snipe down and slurp. Clean up game number 4, and really just an unprecedented way from what was just a corner of a corner.
Ass all over the lobby, ass all over the chat, ass just about everywhere. Albert Laley, Slurpee, and Snipe Down finally able to find their first game after they found the very first squad of the lobby. They will find the very last as well, preying on NRG to finalize things, but that does not mean NRG is out of the competition. They had an absolutely incredible game as well, and I definitely expect them to make another jump in this leaderboard.
Yeah, NRG had everything there at the disposal, but unfortunately, the ring always wins. And so NRG needed to drop down, and when they did, they were immediately punished because everyone knew where they were, and they saw the red shields. They saw that this was probably the team that you wanted to take down. So TL stalls for a very long time. We see at least one other squad in ASS that just bided their time, right? They were just patient, and they moved up to the better spot right when it mattered. It looks like NRG didn't recognize that and instead dropped all the way down, maybe ate a little bit too much damage on their way to the reposition, and ultimately that gives the game over to ASS. So when we come back, we will find out in game number 5, we will have a different champion, or if it will continue to be the dominance of the same squads. TL, Esports Arena, who wasn't near the top. And of course, now we're seeing the real awakening of NRG. We'll see how far they jumped up in the leaderboard after the break.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems, a full set it took 15 years to complete. Low-pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows, one of only a handful in the universe, or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Welcome back. I hope everyone is having as much of a blast as we are. My name is Millicrit, joined once again by Tenric, and we are also joined by our fantastic sponsors, eBay. Get up to 50% off of your favorite gaming gear. Make sure you level up your game with your favorite brands, Razer, Microsoft. They got it all at the best prices. So if you want some of the most competitive prices in the game and free shipping, be sure to visit pks.gg/eBay. That is pks.gg/eBay. Tenric, NRG stocks are going up right now. I can't wait to look at the leaderboard because even though they didn't win that game, and shout out to ASS because their stocks are also going up as well. NRG did a lot of work there towards the end.
Well, wait no longer, Mello, because here it is, and yes, indeed, NRG, they have finally stocked up enough KP and placement points to be able to take first place. ESA have finally fallen, and not just that, Team Liquid have also surged ahead thanks to their really solid placement. That is thanks to a very convenient circle for them, ending up on Cascade. The fact that last circle was so chaotic, but also so clearly could have been so much more chaotic is astounding. SSG and AS rounding out the top 5. The sustainability and consistency from them is still coming through. Wingman Season had another really solid game there as well. Elevate had some good survivability, and Oxygen, you can tell they are just always on the cusp of breaking through.
And AS is just able to break through into that top 5. But credit to TL because even though they were gifted that ring, especially on a map like Stormpoint, it is so difficult to continue acquiring those resources for the late game. But they did have that Loba in their pocket, which I think if you're ever going to pray to have a Loba, it's in spots like that where you're given zone, but you kind of just have to bide your time. You have to wait. You have to soak up all of those resources. As squads fly in and die near the edge of your AoE effect of your ultimate, that's when you can really start to rack up the loot. You're not really getting that loot yourself. You're not really fighting for it. You're just soaking it up. You're just waiting for everyone else to die off so that you can reap all of the benefits. So they do a lot of work there. They do a good amount of fighting towards the mid game, but not more than they needed to. And that's pretty important as well. You don't want to get dropped too early if you already have a good spot early on. So credit to TL. They did a great job with their composition there.
Yeah, I want to say 75% of the picks that came through in that game as a whole came from capitalizing on mistakes when it came to rotations. That was so much of what we saw, and that's kind of what Stormpoint allows for, is if you make a mistake burning, if you make a mistake running through to circle, then you are going to get punished for it by teams at this caliber. We saw that with something like Optic Gaming, who, while they were in a good spot, and while they still had technically control over Sentinels and Los Demonios, all that Los Demonios had to do was throw themselves at the problem, and all of a sudden, Optic were worse for wear. They had to run away from the situation as Los Demonios went down to Sentinels, and then Sentinels could farm even more out of that, which now puts Sentinels over Optic Gaming in the leaderboard as well. So I'm really interested to see how Optic, again, continues to adapt because they've been looking better and better game by game, and here on Stormpoint, I really feel like they could come into their own, but they just have to find their movement properly.
Yeah, and we were actually getting to witness Noct doing their best. I don't even know. That's not a rat. Rats don't run that fast, but that was just crazy how long he was able to survive. And Optic did have an okay spot there, but once again, when you get engaged on, when teams get desperate enough, sometimes you can be on the bad side of that coin flip. So that's sort of what happened to Optic there, even though they were keeping out Los Demonios and probably were already counting up the KP they were going to have. Maybe, you know, counting their chickens before they hatch, end up getting punished there and end up unable to hold out. EA have to hold out against this contest from Renegades right now. I believe Renegades ended up losing out on it last time. Do trade out 1-4-1 for the time being. Actually, I think that's 2 members dropped so far. Make that 3. E8 is eliminated just like that, Tenric. We have a different team in the lobby that we didn't see before. Renegades will be joining us for the latter half of the game.
Great way to kick things off over on the wall. In the meanwhile, Tripods, who also had an unfortunate game due to our friends over at AS. They're trying to separate themselves from the problem a little more this time. Nick Mercedes and the newly acquired Gent, they haven't really found their stride just yet, but there are a lot of games left to go. Stunny, crazy Sentinel shot, but already unloaded, has to recoup here in this 1v1, and Yanya in Luminosity is going to be able to take that kill because of it. But can Luminosity complete here? They still have to play from this distance with the R3 and triple take. Is Yanya still attempting to make some ground happen as Nazel has to back out here. Yanya still pushing through. Enemigo is going to find Zetanim to begin, and Luminosity is able to finish off Wingman Season.
Wingman Season is out of this game. Luminosity Gaming winning out on this contest. Looks like they might already be pinging potentially a third-party situation, but it is not to be quite yet. And we pan on over to our final contest that we were seeing a little bit earlier. As is looking a lot better than they were in the earlier games here. They had a pretty decent game there, of course, picking up the dub for our first match on Storm Point. So they're looking to repeat just like Esports Arena did on World's Edge, but they have to win this contest out first. And Ring 1 is already approaching. Those ring changes, you gotta love them. You gotta hate them as well. Nick Merckx certainly hating them a little bit more than they are liking it, because ASS is looking hungry for these kills. They have the shield advantage against ASS, but that's never stopped Albralele and crew from pushing down and winning these fights.
Yeah, they're actually trying to get this pressure onward, even though they're the ones holding the outer edge. They don't want to play guard dog. They don't want to play babysitter here. They want to just get rid of tripods and move on to the next thing. They want to start getting a move on because they got punished for it a little bit too much last time. They were still able to take this game, but it was by the skin of their teeth and with a lot of chaos in the end game. And so I think ending those clogs is really important. Gent gonna be the first to fall thanks to As taking that high ground pretty quickly. That Horizon Valk combination on these towers is just so potent. Albralele definitely happy with what they've done so far, but As is not done just yet. An Arcstar to flush out that door. Slurpee holding down this low ground and then snipe down on the other door, and here comes the opening. That's the down on a Nick Merckx, and there's just one left to go. Deeds gets melted and Tripods falls in 18.
A microdrone for a microdrone, and we get the perfect timing here once again. We pan on over to G2, laying the disrespect on heavy and thick and with way too much mayonnaise. That was incredible. Once again, G2 will be joining us for the I keep calling it the latter half. Really, we have quite a bit more Apex to play in this game. More. But in terms of contests, we, I think, are about finished up here. 2 minutes and 45 seconds left on this ring close. Once again, 17 squads left to play with, and G2 comes out on top once again. I think at this point, they didn't have the confidence they needed. They've certainly been given that boost by repeatedly winning the Storm Point contest, so good job for them.
I think there is still one member kind of ratting out for Furia, I believe, maybe Hids Watson, if I'm not mistaken, because I didn't see it on the kill feed, and only 3 squads have fallen so far, and I don't believe that one of them is Furia as of yet, so we'll see maybe a rat out and a better placement in the future. In the meantime, Torrent, a team that has, again, been kind of waiting in the wings and consistently performing pretty okay in the middle of the pack, getting a solid amount of KP in some of these games, especially game number 3, but nothing super of note just yet. Currently taking some pot shots from afar, attempting to boost up that bank. Again, this is day 1, but this is half of the games you gotta play. You gotta rack this up so that tomorrow you have the easiest springboard of all. Great shots taken over from Reeds on this R3 plus Volt combination. What a crazy combo that we've already seen a couple times boasted by these players. I think by Reeds more than anyone else so far. And you know what? I'm not totally against it. I think it's really fun to watch.
Absolutely is a blast to watch. And I love to watch Torrent because they're one of those teams that can show up out of the blue. You kind of forget about them a little bit if you're not really following them too closely. You don't expect them, but suddenly they're up in your face and third-partying your fight. Big damage coming out from Reeds. That is a big crack, but he is going to have to slow this push down a little bit. Unfortunately, they get a little too over-aggressive too early. Reeds goes down, and they haven't even gotten close to finishing this fight off. Reeds will end up getting thirsted, but G-Force is eliminated in the process. So now they will have to hunt for this banner, hopefully hunt for a beacon to pick up their knocked down member. I think this is quite over though. There's still caustic gas to deal with, which means there might be one member hiding out. Looks like they're left over. They will pick up that banner, and Tor stays alive for now.
Wait, you're telling me a Valkyrie got overzealous and then got punished for it? That's crazy. No way.
No way.
100 Thieves going down pretty early at the hands of Sentinels, who again have been getting really consistent results, but just not getting in that top area. We're still waiting on them because, again, it's Sentinels, guys. There's always a moment where they shine. But Torrent are the ones that we're looking at right now. They are definitely the protagonists after a really solid team fight they just engaged in and trying to find a solid beacon for their friend. Renegades were one of the teams in one of these contests, and they're surviving and thriving as they make the northeast edge of this circle with not too much contesting them along the way as well. Again, just guarding the outer rim of this circle to make sure that their path in is uncontested, and I believe it may be, but no. Actually, it's Pow Pow that sights one from afar, very, very far. Good shots taken with this 30-30, but nothing super of note. Again, you're just trying to ward off your enemies so you're able to get in pretty easily. The pathing is what these teams are most concerned about because it is what these teams got most punished for in the previous game.
Yeah, absolutely. The pathing there is going to be critical. It's going to be critical, especially for teams like Torrent, where they have to include res beacons in their pathing now as well. They have to pick a good spot. They're pretty confident they won't get swung on by an edge team that's just hunting for a fight or a free couple of kills. Renegades is going to have to make their rotation here pretty soon as well. And they're right in front of this other engagement where Sentinels is down a member. We see Lou here trying to reposition their down teammate. Great work there. It looks like they're trying to get them to the gravity cannon, but it might be too little too late. You already see the horizon starting to push on up. They're trying to defend this spot, and they have the resources to do it a little bit, as also trying to defend their own spot here, but they're defending outside of ring to who we don't know. We don't know who we owe this action to, but apparently they have 3 purple shields, which is not too shabby. This might not be the worst fight for them yet.
I commend whoever is contesting Ass because it's good punishment on what they realized last time, which is that Ass took their time on this rotation. It's a Jibby in the squad, so that may tell us something, as Slurpee is going to get melted away by said Gibraltar, and so now Ass has to take even more time with this. The more that they are slowed down, the weaker that they will become. That is clear in the previous game, and that is clear with this one. Another drop by Ass this time, as Slurpee is going to get revived, but it's Albraleli that falls to Zen this time, as the rest of Ass attempting to recoup. Albra now falling, Snipe down, and Slurpee attempting to recover at the moment, but there's already too much coming at them, and the rest of the squad gets eliminated by Zen, but SSG falls very soon after, as Zen and Frex were staying in the zone for far too long. A kamikaze brings out 2 of the biggest teams in the tournament so far.
What did I tell you, Tenric? The ring always wins. The ring is always the MVP. The ring always catches the dub, and there is nothing you can do about it other than try to get first place in the scoreboard that we are choosing to recognize as first place. Right now, TL picking a good spot to potentially make that happen, force their way into that first place spot once again. They did win the last game of World's Edge, so maybe they're trying to pick one up to make it even Stevens on Stormpoint as well. They're playing it slow for now. They don't have to do anything crazy, and they really don't want to let go of too many resources here, because these are the points where you wonder why you even picked up the Loba in the first place. I mean, this spot, if it hasn't been looted by you, it's certainly been looted by some other squad that has made their transition through that area. And there's not really a lot of teams dying near you since you are so far back towards this zone. So if they're relying on picking up loot from some of these squads dying, I don't think they're going to see a lot of death anytime soon.
Yo, check this black market value. Oh, nice. A white heavy mag. Sick, dude. Wow. Yeah, I have to agree. I think TL ratting out, even momentarily, it seems a little bit weak, but I'm not the expert, and I'm not the one who has to rotate that far, so TL, they are going to stay put for a second. Torrent can't do that. They don't have that luxury, as Aiden currently batting out, while ratting out is the rest of the team trying to take on Luminosity. They do melt Yanya away, and it's a 3v1, 1-by-1, but the rest of Torrent is actually getting melted themselves, and Amigo will fall next, and so it's Reeds and RKN versus the last remaining member, and the tactical ult has already been used by said Horizon. A quick drop down onto RKN will force Reeds to engage a little bit prematurely, but he was able to Phoenix kit back out. It's LG versus the world, and Reeds will be the one to find the finality. Luminosity is down.
Nizzle holds it down for so much longer than they had any right to, but Torrent does eventually knock them down. That Phoenix kit does come through just in time. They didn't actually get the knock there either, so they're going to be waiting a little bit here, have a little bit of room to breathe as some of the other squads start to make their decisions about how they're going to rotate on out. And Checkpoint team, NRG, hasn't moved a whole lot. They continue to loot, they continue to wait out, and I think they understand that they have to clear their back. I think this is really important for this ring in particular, that they know for a fact no other squad is going to rotate behind them and take up space, because they want to be looking forward. They want to be clearing their next rotate. They know that some of these choke points aren't the freest, aren't the easiest to move on through, so great heads up play from NRG. They're definitely one of the more intelligent teams in terms of how they make those rotation decisions. So we'll see how they play out as they approach this mid game. But right now, OG approaching a lot of damage and 3 purple shields to boot. So they're feeling pretty good with their resources as well.
I just love the evolving awareness coming from these teams, including Oxygen, who really hasn't slowed down just yet. They just haven't found their step up either. They're a glimpse away from the top 5, currently at 23 points. G2, a little farther back though, unfortunately, due to the contest that they've had with Furia. Now they're going to get in a little firefight with 1 or 2 members themselves, but Chaotic Much, what a farm! A 1 clip with the 301 onto RNG's Madness, and Renegades is only too strong as the rest of G2 attempts to push forward with it.
Chaotic is playing out of their minds right now in this tournament. They've really shown up and have been showing up for a long time. This addition has been so good for this roster, so they are feeling fantastic here after a big knock, big damage. Red shield for Chaotic as well. They have some resources to work with for fighting and for rotating. The Valkyrie is still holding on to that ultimate. And with 11 squads down as we approach the closure of ring number 3, there is plenty of space left to play, plenty of space that G2 can opt to take. Or, you never know, maybe they know another squad is in the wings trying to force their way in and they're going to punish that as well. You can never get too much KP.
G2, this could be their shining moment. They still have so much of their kit ready. They really didn't have to use much at all for that. All they really had to do was fire away at the Renegades that were running away from them. So that's another free squad wipe for them. I believe that is a full 6 KP at the very least, due to them being able to take down Furia yet again. Optic, another team that has had budding awareness so far. We've been talking about them quite a bit, and that's because there is so much relating to them that we need to talk about. Their rotations have been solid. Their control of a territory is, arguably from time to time second to none, and so it's exciting to see how they continue trying to adapt to a lobby that is so chock full of these top caliber teams. Team Liquid, look at all this space that they've taken, still with this Newcastle wall down as well. They have planted themselves even further now that the circle favors them just that much more. OXG also waiting there. Meanwhile, who, along with Torrent, in neighboring buildings too. Oh, that always smells disaster. And you, the Renegades rat, has indeed also made it to circle.
They did make it, which is a big deal, and they have picked up all members of Torrent, so we have a full Torrent roster to work with. Los Demonios is also full, but they also have NRG in their faces. I was just about to say, NRG has been holding this for a hot minute. They wanted it clear, and Los Demonios are the unfortunate vermin that have walked into the rat trap that is NRG's defense. They have the ring to their back. Sentinels is also there as well, and NRG, meanwhile, is just farming up the kills. They've dropped Lou from the side of Sentinels, and Sentinels is trying to figure out what to do in between a rock and a hard place, so they're just going to go for it. They're going to try and fight out Los Demonios. Crust is able to drop down Tech, but that will be the end of at least one more member. Yes, Los Demonios is knocked out, and Xenox is the last one alive for Sentinels.
So much worse for wear, and it's all thanks to NRG and Los Demonios in part. NRG grabbing those two, and actually they've already rotated out through. Sweet falling because of it. Guild and Nate been having to try to pick up the pieces here. They are not in an optimal position, actually. Their rotation has not been too perfect. This circle has not favored them, and they still have a long ways to go. They don't have much time to get there either. Only 90 seconds to fully recover and make sure that the rest of this is cleared out, but they do have a lot of speed on their side. They have that Valcult ready too, as long as Guild stays safe, which is definitely difficult in these trying times. 8 squads remaining as the circle continues to converge, but this is a fleeting moment that NRG is able to get away unscathed and actually move to these rocks on this circle. Optic to their right, Team Liquid directly in front of them. So much on the table here, but NRG, they're looking to continue their #1 spot, and in doing so, they're going to try and take some shots at some other opponents on this low ground. Nathan losing the shield, and everybody having to back up for the moment. Guild and Sweet going to try and cover up this front line, but NRG, they are definitely a precarious spot, but it doesn't make it any less powerful.
And actually, Team Liquid was knocked out earlier in the engagement where we saw NRG keeping out Los Demonios and Sentinels. So actually, NRG now taking up residence on this backside means that they have likely the most space in this final ring right now, and they can pressure so many squads, including Optic, who has had to shift away. Those rocks that TL were on were no longer playable, I believe, and so that forced that squad to move through. They made a decision about where they wanted to play after. They likely fought a team out and ended up losing, so now NRG gets so much real estate and so many angles to work with. Look at how much of the map they can stare at right now, but that goes both ways. If they are poking, if they are peeking out, they are likely to get poked out right back by Optic Gaming and the like. And we definitely heard a bow earlier. A bow knocked a member of NRG, and I gotta say, if there is a soundtrack to hell, it is the bow shot at 120 BPM, 100%. And that might still do damage to that squad. Renegade's only rat here, going to try and survive a little bit longer. Got to scrap together those placement points the best that you can. And look at how much space there is actually to work with, but so much of it unplayable with lack of cover.
I think you was about to drop on 4 teams and then saw at least one and noped back out of there, now on the far reaches of this circle. And that's actually a great vantage to a fun fight. But shall we get a better one? Let's hop over to that building and see what's going down. A lot of shots taken between these Watson fences. It's OXG at the center of it all. Scissors and Oi Senpai on the inside, attempting to grab these outside shots and batting up along the way. They have this low ground now. Protectful running into 3, running past own enemies, but OXG, they have this base in the meantime. Who continuing to control this low ground? The question is, does this stalemate continue, or does somebody act again? They're back at the edge of this circle, and somebody is eventually going to fall.
And Valk remains one of the most annoying and consistent entry fraggers of any of the legends. Look at the way that they're able to weave themselves in and out of what are essentially death traps right back to the safety of this grid set up by Oi Senpai. Beautiful stuff there, but it doesn't mean that they've opened up the space they need quite yet. Scissors is now having to pop a Phoenix kit, and Oi Senpai also popping an ultimate accelerate in the hopes that they will have at least one more generator to work with before they inevitably have to deal with who actually has a Gibraltar to work with. So who would have thought the one Gibraltar is actually going to get shoved down by a Crypto? This is going to be a very interesting fight if it does break out.
Great Sword and Draft have been boasting these Jibbies and Newcastles the whole way through, and it's really great to see these comps try and take hold. That defensive bombardment is going to catch a lot of these non-Watson teams off guard. Vize firing away at this purple knockdown shield and getting punished a lot for it. Actually, Oi Senpai from the backline finds the opportunity, and the rest of Oxygen is going to try and get the drop down to GB. Volvo already fully gone, and the rest of Who is going to fall. It's just Wave left trying to shield back up, but doesn't have the time to. Going to try and take the place of OXG, but doesn't have much to work with. Has to get rid of these gates. The rest of Oxygen on the chase is Protectful and Scissors to finish off Who.
Oxygen is ultimately helped out, and Renegade's last member is actually the one doing the damage. I think they could have easily griefed at least 2 teams' games here, depending on how well Oxygen plays out of this big 97 spray. From Protectful is going to take that member down. Renegades is eliminated, and Scissors is the last member alive for Oxygen. Meanwhile, Optic Gaming has actually been eliminated. NRG's presence is being felt by the entire lobby right now as ring number 5 closes. Scissors going to try their absolute best to live it out just a moment longer, but they will be eliminated. Now this has fully broken out. Torrent has taken this height that Team Liquid was holding earlier, eliminating G2 completely, and now they're sliding down for what is the final fight of game number 5. We're gonna see a knock on the 2 members of Torrent make that 3. NRG ends up cleaning it up from one of the best spots on the map for the final ring and is your game number 5 champion.
Ultimate Redemption holding from on high once more, but this time they don't have to get punished for it. Taking their sweet time pun, absolutely intended, damage raining from above, and a magnificent amount of KP invested into that game as well. NRG, what a star play from all 3 members of that squad. That is going to rocket them up the leaderboard even more than they already were.
Yeah, there were 2 steps to that victory. They're very simple. Kill everyone behind you and then kill everyone in front of you. NRG, very straightforward with that math, is able to capitalize on that positioning so well. After Team Liquid got knocked out of that God height and Torrent took up residence, they were able to just keep pinging them, and they were able to keep pinging damage onto Optic Gaming. And as the fight broke down just below that hill, it was just too free, just too easy. They walk up and they stock up a big win here that is certainly going to vault them up the leaderboard. We'll have that ready for you after the short break. Don't go anywhere.
To some, this is nothing more than cardboard and ink. But to those who know, these are precious metals, rare gems. A full set it took 15 years to complete. Low pop rookies, hypnotizing hollows. One of only a handful in the universe. Or an heirloom to look after for the next generation. No matter what you collect, raw or graded, to have and to hold, or to crush your opponents with, what matters is that it's real. Introducing eBay's Authenticity Guarantee for trading cards. Our third-party authenticators inspect every detail of your card and compare it to the listing to make sure it's the real deal or no deal, because we know just how much your collection means to you.
Hello, everyone. We are back and on the precipice of the final game of day number 1 for the Knights Carnage Cup number 4. My name is Melcrate, joined once again by Tanreg, joined once again for the final game of today. It's been an absolute blast. So before we get into it, I do want to shout out one of our sponsors who helps to bring this thing together. And if you've ever wanted to learn how to invest or learn how to keep track of a portfolio, as well as use some of the best tools in the business, be sure to check out Investor. Investor is our partner for this night's event and many of their events. They do a great job of showing newbies the ropes on how to get your money up. So if you're interested in learning about that, managing your portfolio, and all of the great tools to learn how to invest, be sure to visit pks.gg/investor. Again, that is pks.gg/investor. And this leaderboard is, I think, going to blow a couple of people away, though. If you've been watching, there's at least one team that has done a great job of cementing their spot on that top 3 position.
Yeah, let's take a look at who's number 1. It's no surprise it's NRG, and look how far ahead they have surged, now 18 points ahead of merely second place. It's actually kind of funny because NRG got less points this game than they did the previous one, and yet look how far they continue to go. Esports Arena actually making it back up to second place thanks to the solid placement points that they've been getting consistently throughout these last couple of games. They were able to grab 7 the previous game. Ratting out has actually kept them up here in Storm Point despite things. Team Liquid holding on that high ground. They will hold on to a top 3 spot, but there are a lot of hungry teams still waiting in the wings. Ass and SSG, notably, still rounding out that top 5, and neither had an extremely amazing game. Ass and SSG, unfortunately, kamikazing each other in the ring very early on in this game, but their lead has held. Torrent and Oxygen and G2, though, definitely some teams to watch out for in the future. In fact, I would say that the entire top 15 at this point, maybe even 17, are teams to really take a look at and say, wow, these guys really have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of teams drop to contest as well. So every game is a new game in more ways than one, because we do have teams falling very early. And we have to shout out Ass, because that squad seems to be like the gatekeepers right now of the top 5. I think they've been floating right around that level, even though they haven't been doing anything crazy other than, of course, that big dub that they picked up in the first game that we had on Storm Point. There's another squad that has been quietly grinding away at those points, making sure they're in a good position on day 2, and that's actually Esports Arena. Esports Arena fell pretty early in game number 1 of Storm Point and got a little bit later. I think they were near that top 7, top 8 in game number 2. So they kept grinding. I mean, they're still grinding for all these points, which matter a lot, because tomorrow all the cards are on the table. The final 6 opportunities to rack up those points and to stake your claim at that $10,000 prize pool. It really is a big deal.
Yeah, this first place spot is definitely going to be tough to be able to make up by any team here in Game 6, but you might forget that we have another 6 games happening after today, and it's cumulative. So it doesn't just matter how you do today. It matters how you do tomorrow. There is no, we go back to square one. We're not stuck in a vacuum. NRG isn't going to win any part of today or any part of the event. They will have first place going into Game 6. They may have first place going into game number 7, which starts tomorrow, but until then, they still have to keep themselves stable. That is what matters here more than anything, is consistency, 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 and Ass has had a whole lot of consistency regardless, as has NRG, as have a lot of the top teams sitting pretty at the top of this leaderboard. The question is, do we see new rising stars? Does G2 finally get out of this pothole where they beat Furia and then move on to actually do well outside of that? Do Sentinels find more than just a couple, prey options and actually get to this top 5 situation where they get more placement points on top of the solid KP that they've been getting for themselves? Does Torrent finally level up and break through that top 5 that Ass has been guarding? Will Oxygen finally get a win after they've come so close so many times? So many unanswered questions, and some may be answered today in the final game of the day, but some might have to wait until tomorrow.
Absolutely. And whoa, excuse me.
Good
all the excitement, it made me lose my voice. Summon the demons there. And yeah, absolutely. Every team is going to be able to take this back to the drawing board in day number 2 as well. So they have time to sort of workshop a lot of these positions that they've been stuck in that have led to really bad games. But E8 here already looking like they might have a rough game. Mercy dropped early. A 2v2, 2v3 situation. We don't quite know yet. So they're going to continue to loot here and maybe turn this thing around, but certainly in a pretty bad position to revive their teammate, at least from the looks of it here.
Yeah, we saw Luminosity be able to take down Elevate previously on the wall here, and we'll see them perhaps do it again as LG continuing to push the envelope. And in the meanwhile, Renegades also in a little bit of duel themselves right now, but they have this low ground, so not exactly the best place to be in. Will they move inside? That's the big question. Not just yet. Oh, but they might have to. There's the Horizon tactical to get up to this roof, but there's a lot more than Pow Pow may have bargained for. Regardless, he's going to find a hell of a lot of damage with this triple take on top of things. And Elevate is looking a bit worse for wear. But Renegades, they still have a lot that they have to deal with as well. You on pretty low health, and Pow Pow having to engage early to find Presley. That will do it. Elevate falls.
Renegade absolutely blows up that fight. That early knock was, I think, the first step into the coffin. I don't know if there's actually some beef here beyond just the contest, but for now, they have won the last of it. And Tripods is going to look to turn their luck around as they have been completely dismantled by Ass in the last couple of games. Nick Merckx trying to heal up, but does get the door absolutely broken down. Trades quite a bit of damage, but it is not enough to get the knock. Albert Lely as well into that building, picks up the thirst, and now Gent is going to try and answer back, and he does indeed. Not quite picking up the thirst here.
Gent's so close.
Yeah,
He's gonna, okay, yeah, all right. Esports Arena is actually gonna go down first in the meantime, but yeah, Albert Lely will fall eventually. So Tripods, this is great. They're being proactive here against Ass, and they're finding some good stuff along the way. Actually, a good clip there, but Gent falls in the meantime. And Deeds with those purple shields certainly doesn't help when you have two people with really solid aim. Gotta head back down to that low ground, try and shield swap really quickly, and perhaps get Gent back on their feet. But no, he's gonna re-engage up to this roof. Solid shots with this wingman. That's one down, but can he find one more? It's just one left on to Snipe down. But they do have a little bit of an opportunity to get this res, and so Deeds has to act quickly, but he can't. He's got to shield back up.
And they are trying to stall this out just enough to go for this res here. It looks like they're starting to stick it now. Deeds is actually going to wait. Might be a little too late on this. Decent placement there on the arc star. I don't know if it will do enough, and it actually whiffs. The door was there. They were actually healing, I think, on the outside. Not exactly sure there, but they are going to wait out just a moment longer. So Deeds still has a 1v1 situation. Nice pump to open things up, but it is not quite the damage he wants to look for the push. Still has plenty of shots in the PK. Peaks a little too early and does get punished for it. Just a straight up brawl right now as Deeds tries to clean up the last member. But Snipe Down did not come back to Apex Legends to join us, just to lose out on a 1v1, but it looks like that might be the case. That's 90 damage coming out and make that the total flush damage left. Snipe Down is indeed eliminated. Ass is eliminated, and Tripods gets a game.
It was a good try for the bluff from Snipe Down, but that knockdown shield can only last you so long, and you can only use it for so long. Deeds with the perfect punish on those PK shots. Tripods will finally move through out of Sonode. G2 in their recontest against Furia. There's one down, but Designful is going to fall to this ring quite soon if he doesn't syringe up, and indeed he won't, but Furia takes the brunt of the punishment, and for the 6th game in a row, G2 outlasts.
And will G2 take the ring damage to shoot bodies? We're about to find out. Wow, they're not going to shoot bodies. They are going to ult bodies. Oh my God. That was...
Do it to him.
Right.
Do it to him.
Listen. That's a little, all right. Get to your rotation, bud. Come on.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to
still
pick
in
up
ring.
Designful, who is the whole team is deep in ring right now, so they're popping Phoenix kits. They have the shields to work with if they can get out of the situation. They might have to give us the optic special and actually just drop down and start crafting up med kits. But I haven't quite actually seen where this ring is pulling. It could be bad enough that extended contest could be pretty punishing for that squad, but G2 are no strangers to the edge and to being deep in zone, so they will eventually work their way on out of there. But we are down to 15 squads before Ring 1 has even closed, Tenric.
These contests on POIs have gotten crazier and crazier. It really is nuts how these teams have continued to just meet each other halfway. It's like they skipped step 1 of the drops at this rate. But yeah, G2 so deep in here. Oh my goodness. Looking inside this circle, Renegades have found a good position after taking care of Elevate, along with who? 100 Thieves. Oxygen is somewhere in there, but Tripod's still pretty deep, and Torrent is actually going to try and find them. This will be interesting to see who comes out on top there, but 100 Thieves in the meantime, they're in a really good spot. A lot of room that they're currently controlling thanks to those Watson fences. Onmu still on this Ashe, actually, even though Vayne has foregone the fuse for the quintessential Valkyrie. And I like that, actually. I like that ability because Stormpoint in a lot of different places is very planar, very linear, and so a burn is not necessary. In fact, it's probably detrimental. Torrent is re-engaging here on the tripods, and there goes one, there goes two, and there goes three. Torrent takes down tripods. Poor guys, they were able to take care of Ass, but they couldn't take of anything apart from it. Torrent's gonna get out free here. Sentinels having some fun with the Trident here. Oh, you love to see it with that Horizon tactical as Sentinels tries to make a getaway through this ring, but Lou's actually gonna have to take a pit stop and heal back up to the ring. He's actually gonna fall really quick here, so Sentinels, they gotta take a moment, just get themselves back up here, but they will get back in ring as well. In our top 14 situation, we're not seeing a whole lot of a punishing game. In fact, a lot of teams are prioritizing getting to that second up circle instead of holding ring down.
Listen, there is so much real estate in the middle, but G2, Sentinels, Tripods, Torrent, they've all decided that they like the red side of Stormpoint way better than the inside, so they're just taking damage, but it does mean, and we've seen this quite a bit, this isn't actually rare. We've actually seen this quite a bit from NRG. We saw it during the ALGS, where they know that some of the spots, especially some of the transition spots that have crafters and that have beacons, can be really pivotal, to a team's rotation strategy, even if it falls outside of rings. Sometimes it is worth taking those ticks, but if you know that's happening, if you're a team like Torrent that is hunting near the edge of zone and even into zone, you can punish teams, pick up KP, and prevent them from getting those rotations and those resources during their transition.
I think it should be re-expressed that Esports Arena actually fell early on, didn't get any points from this game, and that's going to be massive going forward on the rest of the leaderboard. That leaves room for teams like Team Liquid and SSG and Ass and Torrent and Oxygen to really break through and find their place in not only the top 5, but the top 3 if all goes well, including G2 now on the rampage. They're back inside the circle, and they're already met up with an opponent. The question is, who exactly is it? We're not entirely sure just yet. Hopefully we find out very soon, because somebody is going down very soon. That focus of attention, so much information given to G2, knowing they can still play this distance for the moment. Zane, time to take a touch on top of that Horizon tactical, and is actually going to down Hakulo. It's Los Demonios that G2 has already found one down on top of. It's Chaotic Munch throwing that black hole in to keep one apart. Oh, it is so chaotic indeed. The PK shots come through. No shields for any member of G2 though, and so they do have to take a second before they re-engage. Doesn't matter much though when the rest of the team can save face. Los Demonios falls, and G2 on another roll.
That was such a cute little ultimate there from Chaotic. Actually puts it right outside the door to the left, so that no matter what, that door was getting opened one way or another. And the fact that Los Demonios had to commit that Horizon ultimate defensively very early on in that engagement, even though both Seers had been committed, G2 had a bit of that advantage there, and of course had some shield health on top, so they were feeling pretty good about that push. They are able to execute. Los Demonios, once again, getting caught out in kind of a rough position, not rotating it early enough. Maybe they were looking for that keep out strategy that so many teams like Optic like to employ, but unfortunately are just straight up losing these 3v3 situations to the likes of G2. And normally we would see them in the lobby doing the same to the likes of Furia. So it might be a little difficult here for Los Demonios to swallow these pills of getting punished for what could otherwise be a decent play.
Yeah. G2, they've received enough training throughout this lobby. Furia is definitely a worthy opponent, but G2 has been winning out so much more consistently. Furia gonna have to take a crack at it again in tomorrow's games, but for now, they are done, ending up with 4 points to round out the day. Definitely unfortunate thing to do, but that's what happens when your POIs are contested. You risk that consistency falling, and Furia, their risk has not turned into reward. Renegades falling early to guess who? It's NRG dominating Stormpoint for the 3rd consecutive game. Will that continue, or will another champion rise up? A lot of teams either holding down this circle or just scouting things out. We've reached a bit of a state of neutrality on both ends, but Optic is currently receiving a bit of aggression from every other side, holding down these rocks, and also have a trident to cover themselves, but a lot of resources already have to be used, and look at this position that Luminosity has. Oh man, and another contest here. G-Force is throwing some stuff at the wall, so is Oxygen. Optic is getting faced from 3 directions, and LG are seeing that as a sign to say, hey, we can engage a little more for free here, because everyone is already taking too much damage. Niazel is going to be able to take one, Niazel. And the rest of them are taken care of thanks to a beautiful black hole. And Amigo and Niazel finish off Optic, and they will once again fall below the top 10.
Those car physics must be some of the most Looney Tune stuff I've ever seen in this game. But yeah, ultimately, with so many teams opting for the more aggressive compositions, that strategy that Optic Gaming likes to employ, again, of maybe not being super deep in the zone, being somewhere in the middle, being the middleman, the final decider on who gets through and killing teams on their way in. When you get into a situation like that where you're already relying on a vehicle as one of your primary sources of cover, that's just a very rough spot. And we see Luminosity and Enemigo specifically on that Bangalore, which is really awesome.
Wow.
And we're already seeing some of the strengths of it here. I mean, how else do you get to loot this spot so free when Optic was literally just getting punished from that same angle by another squad? You walk up, you smoke it out, and you're just chilling. That's a great use of that Bangalore. We'll see how it plays into this late game, because that ultimate can definitely blow up teams, especially in a ring like this. This ring doesn't have the most cover since you end up playing towards the fingers, those little, you know, bits at the end. It can be really, really tough for teams to find that cover. So if you're out in the open, that Bangalore ult can certainly blow your team up.
Definitely a dangerous thing to watch out for, especially with the teams without pylons. Exciting to see LG rocking that banger for the first time all day. G2 choosing to be ring warriors, burning around this rock to get around a lot of the infighting that's going to happen in the following circle. And, you know, I think that's a solid idea. G2, they're already very satisfied with their KP as of now. There's a kill leader on their team after all. They've gone through, what, 3 squad wipes at this point? They're already having a solid gap ahead of themselves, but they want to farm a lot more if they want to get on top of this leaderboard, and so slowly but surely they will sneak in and try to take care of Luminosity, who have retaken this high ground. They are spotted, but they do get a little bit of drop down damage, so they have to work quickly. That tag from Valkyrie already coming out on top of the exhibit, so there's as much info as possible. Designful trying to work this corner, but on blue shields, he doesn't have as much to work with. There's the Bangalore already coming down, and guess what? There's no dome, there's no pylon to work against, and so G2 just has to bob and weave throughout the competition. They will do so mildly well, but LG, they can still hold this ground down. That focus of attention, though, so important in getting all the information despite the smoke bomb, so LG constantly has to be on the move. Yanya low except for shields, and the rest of G2, they have all this high ground now, all of themselves might still grab a kill along the way. Still stuck inside this smoke bomb is at least one member of LG, still trying to get this escape going, but G2, they are looking so positive on this edge of the circle, and Amigo is going to get finished by Lu.
They have 11 squads up, which means that the LOS here is going to get crazy for all of these squads that are trying to play these little ridges and these little heady spots. And we see that LG there falls victim to something that I think needs to be mentioned with Bangalore, and that's on paper, the ultimate is great, but actually in practice, that ult sucks. And you saw it there. It was literally landing right on top of that team and hit exactly nothing, I think, for the entire duration. It zoned them out a little bit, but all it did was stave off the inevitable attack and onslaught that ended up eliminating that team. And now Sentinels is going to try and maybe get a little bit of revenge for that squad, for Luminosity Gaming, who ended up falling. Oh, nice headshot here. G2 is getting dropped so quickly, but Lu is also getting smoked from the other end, and it's actually Niazzle. They've re-engaged. Luminosity Gaming was not eliminated there. Back for blood, and they get their revenge. Easy dub now for Luminosity, at least in terms of that fight, but they're 2 members down. Maybe not for the game. We'll see what they can do, but that was big for Luminosity.
Luminosity began that, and Luminosity ended that. What a way to finish off the round. G2 and Sentinels both down now. What a crazy fight to kick off this finality here in game number 6. NRG taking care of who? That's going to be a great way to finish things out. Torrent still going crazy as well. They're actually the ones that take care of who in the end. But NRG, they have a solid position. They have to make a big movement to this circle, though. That's going to be really huge for these other teams that are already hunkered down, have all the death boxes they could ever ask for. I mean, Luminosity, they are so set right now. As long as they find that respawn beacon, it might actually be better to wrap things out considering you only have 1 more member. Another team that's looking pretty solid, G-Force, along with Team Liquid, in opposing terraces, or tunnels, excuse me. That's really fun to watch. Both of them just peeking out beyond their opposing fences saying, hello, howdy doody.
And
what are we doing right now?
Both teams do have defensive options too. Like look at the amount of fence
and they're in
work
circle
right
too.
Now.
They're in like the perfect spot.
Yeah. And, meanwhile, NRG, which we have to give them credit, right? They fought their way through here. They have KP to work with, but unfortunately, this time, as opposed to last game, they're actually on the wrong side of this ring. They got here last, and they have their whole backside covered. So again, step 1, keys to victory. Step 1, kill everyone behind you. They've done that. Killing everyone in front of you from this spot is going to be exponentially more difficult, because now, even though they might have some height and some sight lines, they have very little cover to work with. So you have to hit the emergency eject button here. Absolutely. They are just pinging for their lives. They know that all of these spots are taken up. So now it comes down to your knowledge of the lobby. Are you going to know where that free spot is when 7 squads are still alive? TL trying to punish this rotation. Actually not finding all that much damage. And it looks like NRG might have just forced their way in with that Valkyrie ultimate.
Yeah, there's not too much high ground that NRG can use, but there are still a lot of spots that NRG can use. With 2 squads still stuck in these tunnels, NRG actually doesn't have to deal with as much free fire coming from other areas, and so NRG, they may have gotten a free rotation thanks to it, but oh my goodness, what a nade coming out from Fun. Do we see another come through? Yes, we actually do. Some more damage thanks to Team Liquid, still stuck in this tunnel, and yet they are making such a gigantic impact into this game. Meanwhile, Sykes watching the other end to make sure there's no invasion coming from GeForce just yet. So far, the coast is clear, and why wouldn't it be? GeForce also has no reason to leave their tunnel, and so both these teams still stuck inside, maybe gonna try and rat things out, maybe gonna try and find those rats themselves, but regardless, they are in the optimized position. 100 Thieves, they have the rotation ready into this penultimate circle here in round number 5. Vayne afar. Scurry has a good view of the high ground. At least they know that somebody's up there, but that's about all the information that they get. Whenever they drop down, they're gonna be in a dire situation. They're gonna have to make this impeccable.
And you best believe that the Loba on Team Liquid has actually netted them at least 1 care package weapon. They have the Mastiff there to work with. They have 2 red shields. They have the gold shields as well. So once again, a very optimal situation where the Loba has forced itself into this late game. Now they get to wait out for this 1 ring closure that might net them even more resources. Ultimate excels. I mean, you cannot understate how important that can be for the end game teams when all they have to do now is survive, while teams like NRG and Luminosity Gaming still have to force their way into ring. Luminosity is playing these headies that I was talking about earlier at the end of the fingers on this drop. So they don't have a free rotation. They're going to have to fight someone. NRG is a very likely culprit here. And of course, the team on height has LOS on literally everything that's left on the map except for the teams down in the tunnels. So this is that balancing act that leads to some of the most amazing end games that we get to witness in Apex Legends. Expect this to be one of them because right now, all of these teams are posturing up. Here we go. Round 5 is finally closing and something has to give.
Everybody trying to be the main character when it all comes to a head. LG and NRG have to hold down this low ground first, and LG are going to begin things with that black hole and find a couple finishers onto OXG to begin. That's one team trying to make the runaround, falling. Not entirely, though. Rest of Niazel attempting to find this getaway. Bangalore on top of the back line to make sure Oxygen is finished off. Still not just yet. Yanya saying, come on over, buddy. You can bat up down here, and indeed, they can, but not much longer. LG, they still have to move in. This high ground is eventually going to be given up as well, but not just yet. NRG still taking pot shots towards this backline as well. They have a lot of info with this backline thanks to the Seer tactical, and so they're going to get this Thermite down. They have this midline, so they arguably have one of the tougher positions, but they're able to find one along the way. Oh, and shots onto Capra from Nathan. That's a great cutoff, man. And every other team is handicapped except NRG to an extent. LG now having to ward off so much damage coming from Nathan as Guild and Sweet attempt to recover from this backline that they've been trying to take this entire time. NRG now at the center of the circle. OXG only boasting 1 member. Protectful trying to rat things out, but he's at the edge. He's going to have to make the first move out of everybody, and it looks like LG is ready to commit to it. It's actually Team Liquid and NRG that make their moves instead. Sweet finishes off Protectful. The rest of GeForce is now being contested by Team Liquid. The 2 teams in the tunnels have finally met each other, but NRG, they still look so unbearably strong. Niazel falls next. Knockdown shield is present though, and so Guild can't find the finisher. Instead, they're gonna fire through these smoke bombs with the help of the Seer tac that finds the other 2 members. Red shields still up though, and so Nathan has to do a lot of work, but that's exactly what he does. Firing through, finding so much red damage. Still not fully recovered though, and so LG is not out of this yet, but now here comes SSG on top of the exhibit from the high ground. It is now a full 6 squad fight inside the smoke bombs, inside the dome. So many places to go, so many dangerous spots to try to contest. Frex, no shields available. Zen and Drop have to hold on the front line, and they just can't do it that long, but in the process they'll be able to take down at least 2 members of Luminosity Gaming. But SSG is the first to fall. Luminosity looking first for where it's just Capra left for GeForce, and he's also in a difficult spot. The rest of Team Liquid though, they have full reds, full 3 members. 100 Thieves is still looking good. NRG is still looking good. This is still anybody's game except for GeForce as they fall. NRG have this sideline. Niazel attempting to contest Gil, but that's not for long, and as the last remaining member, LG, is now gone, It's NRG, 100 Thieves, and Team Liquid for #1 here in Game 6. And now the front line comes through. Sweet holding it down, 122 damage to begin. That's a beautiful start for Sweet. Still so much sustain available, but it doesn't matter when you can just melt everybody else. Sweet launches that sear attack again. No shields available, and on move falls. NRG attempting to re-engage from 100 Thieves again. Guild and Nathan have this high ground back, and they're still trying to recoup. This is a full recovery. Shots from above, uncontested, unpunishable. 100 Thieves eliminated. It's just NRG and Team Liquid left. Team Liquid still has this low ground, but the circle is converging on both of them. It might be a sustainability war if all goes well for both sides. Who could possibly win it? Still triple reds for Team Liquid. Guild with the first drop, firing away. There's a gold on one of them, actually. That might lead to even better sustain. And that Newcastle, too. You're right, that castle wall plus that mobile shield can lead to even better sustain. It's NRG that's gonna have to make the drop, but they want to wait for Team Liquid to come out onto this river first. But Fun FPS with this massive, finding massive damage. But now comes the black hole. Fun still firing through, but just like that, it's just Sykes left. NRG farming away. They are your main characters and your champions for game number 6.
What a way to clean things up. NRG taking up all the space, taking out all of the teams on the southern side. They were on step 1 that whole time. They were clearing teams behind them, left, right, center. They were taking out LG. They were just eliminating squads all over the map. And in the end, even though Team Liquid had arguably one of the best spots to hold and one of the compositions that could certainly do it with the Mastiff in hand, it is not enough, and NRG picks up a second win on Storm Point. Fantastic performance to close out day number 1. NRG on top, Sweet and the team on top, and that pickup is looking really good right now, Tenric.
Guild fits right in the last jigsaw piece. Absolutely incredible stuff. I am so confused as to how they were able to grab that low ground and still wait every other constellation out. They waited out GeForce getting out of that low ground. They waited out Team Liquid just long enough to get out of that high ground. They waited out SSG from that high ground as well, which is not impossible on a portion of the map like that. They were able to outlive and outlast every single other thing. And then when it came down to that last team fight, they were absolutely perfect. I mean, what a way to cap off that day, as you're already in first place by an 18-point margin, and your second place got eliminated in the bottom 5. I mean, the amount that NRG is about to surge ahead before we even hit day 2 is monumental.
Yeah, and they are setting themselves apart so early. They are already starting to mark out the pieces of the pie that they're eventually going to hopefully rip away from that 10K prize pool, and that is exactly how you want to do it. I think a little bit of passiveness from Luminosity ended up giving NRG a lot of that space that they were given. We saw that Luminosity ended up sort of turtling there when initially they had taken up a lot of space, being the initial team to punish Oxygen. So for NRG to ultimately be the one to clean up Oxygen and also end up cleaning up LG, I think LG gave them a little bit too much respect when they heard those shots. I would have loved to see LG walk up a little bit and look, because they had the sight lines, and Sentinels ended up dropping a little bit after the fact as well. So Sentinels wasn't the team, or sorry, Space Station wasn't the team that ended up wiping NRG, which means I think LG had an opportunity there to do something with it, but ultimately NRG is able to stave off all of the enemies, all of the people that are trying to take away their second win. They do it again here on Storm Point. So NRG, a Storm Point team, suddenly, I don't know, they looked pretty good on World's Edge historically. So maybe with that new roster pick of Guild holding it down as a very strong damaging anchor, just consistently doing all of the damage and living way longer than they have any right to, ultimately is leading NRG to some fantastic spots. So with that being said, let's take a look at how well NRG is doing as we move into day number 2 tomorrow. We have 3 more games starting on Storm Point and 3 more on World's Edge, and it is up to everyone but NRG to start making up some ground, because we have a 38-point deficit from first to second.
I mean, that just seems so impossible. After ESA began this off with the 2 wins in a row here on World's Edge, it just goes to show you gotta stay consistent. And NRG, they have been nothing but consistent all day. That last 2 wins to pay things off granted them an extra 25 points, because guess what? They got 13 kills on top of that. That's the most that any team has gotten in this lobby at all. Second to only, guess who? NRG as well in game number 4. They are unstoppable when it comes to just wiping. But beyond that, look at this. As SSG, ESA, and TL still holding down the top 5 after all of that. And you know why that is? It's because Torrent, it's because G2, it's because Oxygen, they underperformed in game number 6. But I gotta shout out who rounds out that top 10. Sentinels and Luminosity both looked stellar that final game, especially Luminosity. That recovery after G2's rotation to finally cap off after Sentinels thought they were third partying, but in fact they were only subject to that fourth party. Those are the type of star plays I need to see more often from teams who clearly have as much prowess as them. Los Demonios making a solid rise up to 11th place. Renegades holding out 13th. That's really solid. Elevate, those rats have paid off despite their contests against Renegades. And Tripods, they are now far and away from last place, who is Furia, thanks to that win up against Ass in the very beginning of game number 6. So a lot of traffic rounding out the finality of the leaderboard here. But again, we are just halfway through this event. There are still 6 more games to play.
Yeah, and we have to shout out the gatekeepers of top 5 that remain for now until forever. It looks like As holds out the top 5 spot once again, right in 5th. And ESA, who really picked up very few points in those Stormpoint games. That is a testament to how successful they were in games 1 through 3 on World's Edge. We saw them first, and in the top 5. So they were very successful at racking up those points that have kept them in that 55-point sort of lead over the middle of the pack. So that is a comfortable spot for them to be, assuming we're just playing World's Edge, but we've got 3 games of Stormpoint. We're starting on Stormpoint tomorrow. So they need to make those adjustments to be successful, because that map is going to be played very differently. A lot of these teams, I suspect, are going to be playing this very differently, because now that some teams have kind of been scooched out of the picture, those teams are going to start fighting for their position back near the middle of the pack and hopefully the top of the leaderboard. And all the top of the stack teams are feeling way more confident, way more comfortable. They can just start bullying the middle of the pack now, and especially start bullying all those teams on the lower half of the leaderboard. So we will have a lot of exciting content and gameplay for y'all tomorrow in the stream. Same time tomorrow, same spot here at Knights. Be sure to tune in. You do not want to miss the end of the Knights Carnage Cup number 4. And before we sign out, we obviously have to shout out our presenting sponsor one last time. You guys have heard a couple of reads. You can stick around for one last one. eBay is the presenting partner of the Knights Carnage Cup number 4. They have up to 50% off on so many fantastic items to up your game. Some of your favorite makers, including Microsoft, Razer, whatever you might need to step up your gaming equipment. They got it, and they've got it with free shipping. So be sure to visit pks.gg/eBay. Again, that is pks.gg/eBay. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Tenric, for joining me on the desk. And we will see you all tomorrow.